Chapter 26. Han Bingning came to the jaded swamp sea of bamboos as usual. The Star Wind martial meet was nearing, and she was making the best use of her time to train her light body technique. Her main training was sword arts. Her beautiful water element sword technique, Rain Bell, made her the #1 expert of the Northern Yen Academy. He did not spend too much time on floating palm. He only trained in floating palm, so that he could train in the rank 3, broken shadow palm. Han Bingning bent down and prepared to rush down. At this time, a huge black object suddenly rushed out from the bamboo forest. "I want to run too." Suddenly, a graceful figure flew down from the sky and caught the little girl. With a turn of her body, she flew back to another bamboo branch. Han Bingning could not understand why the perfect Miss Xia would like this useless man in front of her. Not good. For the first time, Tang Tian had such a strong desire for a martial technique. That was power, true power. If he could learn Mega Avalanche, he would definitely be extremely handsome. Crystal Sky Sima Xianxia, Northern Yen Han Bingning, Beast of the Liangqiu, they were the top 3 of the hundreds of academies in Starwind City. After Xia Shanghai left, their positions were unshakable. But there was one thing that Han Bingning could not understand, and that was Tang Tian. Without saying a word, Tang Tian suddenly grabbed onto the little girl. He took a deep breath, his eyes opened wide, the muscles on his arms instantly tensed up. He exhaled, and with a burst of strength, he threw the little girl out like a sandbag. At the edge of the jaded swamp sea of bamboos, a man was training in light body technique. Han Bingning could tell with one look that he was training in the rank 2 aerial with stake. His steps were a little jerky, and from her point of view his figure could be considered clumsy. Since he could not run, then he would fight. Ink Black Iron Rhino. With this kind of strength, even if Han Bingning was in her best condition, it would still be difficult for her to win easily. What was worse was that she did not bring her sword with her today. Almost at the same time, a huge black shadow suddenly rushed out of the sea of bamboos. The bamboos that were as thick as an arm were as fragile as paper. They instantly shattered and scattered in all directions. The difficulty of practicing minute collapsing fist was much higher than the flash fist technique. To practice it to perfection, one would need to complete 400,000 repetitions of minute collapsing fist technique. This number was twice that of the flash fist technique. And to train to the Great Avalanche, it required 1,000,000 repetitions of minute collapsing fist. That punch was too powerful. Suddenly, the branch under her feet trembled. Han Bingning immediately woke up with a look of alertness. The branches under his feet trembled continuously, and a faint rumbling sound could be heard. Tang Tian was very diligent in practicing aerial with stake. Footwork was his weakness, but for close combat the importance of footwork was self-evident. He cultivated with all his might, and all his bitter cultivation time was spent on cultivating the minute collapsing fist. Suddenly, the trembling of the ground came from behind her. But she immediately had a trace of suspicion. There were very few large wild beasts in the jaded swamp sea of bamboos, because this was a swamp. Han Bingning's calm gaze slowly searched within the dense sea of bamboos. The silver lightning landed solidly on the ink black iron rhino's body, so the fog could be destroyed. Hua, his retreating right leg was like an iron plow, carving out a deep groove in the ground. Lowering his waist into a horse stance, he opened up his arms, all 10 fingers spread out, pointing at the ink black iron rhino, his face without a trace of fear. He was like a cheetah pouncing on its prey. His strong explosive power was displayed to its fullest. The distance between the two was extremely close. Adding on the fact that Tang Tian's reaction was extremely fast, he instantly rushed to the side of the ink black iron rhino. Tang Tian saw it. It was a female, but he did not recognize her. But he could finally relax. Turning his body facing the ink black iron rhino, his expression instantly became fierce. He casually tore off his clothes, revealing a body full of muscles. Tang. The pupils of Tang Tian's eyes suddenly contracted. The little girl wanted to lead the wild beast away, running in another direction. But with such a delay, the wild beast had closed the distance between them. After 20 days of training as well as bitter training, Tang Tian's minute collapsing fist had reached 80,000 repetitions. Big brother, quickly run. The Tang Tian, who was in midair, took the chance to leap like a fish, grabbing the little girl with one hand and rolling on the ground. Amongst them, the Northern Yen Academy could be counted as the most unique academy. Because it was a female academy, the students inside were all females. Suddenly, her gaze froze. Tang Tian was surprised for a moment, then he threw himself into the frenzied training of the minute-collapsing fist. Perhaps it had many mysteries, but in Tang Tian's eyes, it was not as attractive as the Great Avalanche. Come, stupid ox. Han Bingning bit her teeth, charging down. The little girl's tears flowed even faster, but she was extremely sensible. She did not cry and only ran with all her might. Her gaze casually swept across the area below. There were people who specialized in catching bees here. She did not like to interact with other people and would often quietly avoid them. Hey, are you all right? Han Bingning stood on the bamboo branch, lost in thought. But the distance between the two was getting closer and closer. Rumble. Tang Tian was stunned. The little girl's crying also stopped. Tang Tian saw the little girl staring at him. Oh, if he were to explain it like this, he would lose face. Han Bingning was a famous ice beauty. Countless young men who boasted of themselves as romantic had met with her. The way she did things was extremely similar to the previous Xia Shangguan, so there were people who called her Little Xia. And Han Bingning also said that Xia Shangguan was her idol. Killing lightning bolt. In the entire Star Wind City, he was the only guy who could make Miss Xia smile. When Xia Shangguan was in Star Wind City, Han Bingning had just entered the school. At that time she was full of respect for Xia Shangguan. Killing lightning bolt. Could even blast open the fog wall behind the light door, but this animal was actually fine after being hit by it. Tang Tian hurriedly put the little girl behind him and whispered, "Quickly run." Tang Tian's roar echoed in the bamboo forest. Such a kind-hearted little girl. Suddenly her eyes narrowed. Tang Tian was training the aerial wooden stake, practicing bursting fist and practicing qigong during the day. This kind of life was very fulfilling. In her heart, Xia Shangguan was the embodiment of perfection. She did not even notice that many of her ways of doing things were subconsciously imitating Xia Shangguan. She did not leave. He recognized this man. The little girl in the air anxiously waved her arms and legs. Her voice was filled with a deep sobbing sound. Han Bingning's expression changed. How could there be such a high-level beast in the jaded swamp sea of bamboos? Damn it! That was killing lightning bolt. Han Bingning walked empty-handed, lightly flying in the sea of bamboos, her figure graceful. The immature and anxious voice entered Tang Tian's ears. Tang Tian turned his head. When he saw the ink-black iron rhinoceros crawling back up as if nothing had happened, Tang Tian sucked in a breath of cold air, his scalp tingling. Big brother. Suddenly the ground beneath his feet violently shook. So dangerous. There must be some wild beast behind me. It was so strong that when Tang Tian thought about it, he could not help but tremble from the bottom of his heart. The ink-black iron rhinoceros fiercely stomped on the ground, pouncing towards the little girl. He had seen the golden card on the light door. He had also seen the corner of the fog wall that had been destroyed by the killing lightning bolt. But right now, Tang Tian's mind was filled with the great avalanche. Tang Tian stopped with some suspicions. At this time he saw a petite figure charging out from the sea of bamboos. A panic-stricken and petite figure quickly shuttled back and forth between the bamboos. The little girl was only 7 or 8 years old. Her hair was combed into a ponytail, and there were 2 streaks of tears on her chubby face. Her face was deathly white and her little mouth was tightly clenched. She used her hands and feet to run as fast as she could. The ink-black iron rhinoceros's body was huge, like a small mountain. Its entire body was covered with dark green scales, making it hard for blades and swords to injure it. Its temperament was extremely violent. The ink-black iron rhinoceros's body was huge, but it was not clumsy at all. The sound it made when it ran was even more shocking. It did not care about the bamboos at all, directly crushing them in its path. Rumble, rumble. Even such a simple second-rank aerial with stake was so terrible. How could he obtain the favor of Miss Xia? Tang Tian's heart was incomparably bitter. He thought of his shoddy light body technique and knew that he would definitely not be able to outrun this beast. Every time he trained bitterly before, although he did not slack off in the slightest, he clenched his teeth and persevered. But this time within his body, it was as if there was a ball of flame burning fiercely. Tang Tian's aerial with stake. improved very quickly. The second rank of aerial with stake was mostly footwork and only had the most basic technique to raise chi. The difficulty of training it was not high, and it was the same as floating palm. Killing lightning bolt. Wasn't it just 1,000,000 times? 1,000,000 times of minute collapsing fist. To be able to exchange for such a powerful killing technique, it was too worth it. But right now Tang Tian felt that he was filled with energy. Big brother, let's run together. The little girl pulled on Tang Tian's clothes. It was a little girl. The little girl's face was filled with panic. The moment she rushed out, she saw Tang Tian. Huff huff huff. Tang Tian gasped for breath, using all his strength to climb up from the ground. He lowered his head to look at the little girl in his arms. The little girl's eyes were tightly shut, her face filled with fear. Almost at the same time, Tang Tian's figure leapt out without hesitation. A wild beast that Tang Tian had never seen before, so fierce. A piece of the fog was blown away, revealing a small piece of the ground. The experienced Han Bingning immediately realized that there was a huge wild beast approaching. Tang Tian shook the little girl in his arms. The little girl's tightly pursed lips could not hold it in any longer and began to cry loudly. Tang Tian's figure suddenly disappeared. A dazzling silver fist aura, like a bolt of lightning, tore through the sky. If he had not personally seen the power of Mega Avalanche, Tang Tian might have directly ignored it. 1,000,000 times, how long would he need to train for? The bamboo under Han Bingning's feet shook and she nearly lost her balance. She quickly stabilized her figure. Tang Tian's bitter training time was all spent on the minute collapsing fist. Big Brother Stone's Mega Avalanche left a deep impression on him. The huge body of the ink black iron rhino was directly sent flying. Tang Tian was at a loss of what to do. Hey, don't cry, are you injured anywhere? Han Bingning recognized the little girl. She was from the local beecatcher clan. In this period of time she had been training in the bamboo sea every day and had seen her several times. Chapter 27. The last worry in Han Bingning's heart disappeared. She raised her arm and pointed her sword at the ink black iron rhino. The ink black iron rhino's eyes turned a deep dark green, like two pieces of black jade. Its entire body emitted an extremely dangerous and tyrannical aura. Suddenly, the ink black iron rhino's horn emitted a layer of dark green light. Han Bingning never thought that she would see such an imposing aura from a wild beast. At the same time, Tang Tian's waist also lowered. The man and beast's roars mixed together. The ink black iron rhino's body trembled and retreated a step. Ink black iron rhino. A lady exclaimed from the bamboo forest, "Darling." Suddenly, the ink black iron rhino's four limbs bent down slightly. Middle stage 4th level wild beasts had already produced spirit nuclei. They had the power similar to true power. This was their innate ability. The higher the level of the wild beast, the stronger this ability would be. Tang Tian stared with his eyes wide open and roared like thunder. Tang Tian clenched his teeth and laughed sinisterly. He grabbed the rhino's horn and suddenly exerted strength. With a flip, he sat on the ink black iron rhino's back. Did it not sense that he was near? Tang Tian was struck by lightning. His body flew out. Idiot. Han Bingning seemed to have awoken from a dream. With a wave of her hand, she unsheathed her sword. The ink black iron rhino stared at Tang Tian. The most barbaric clash of strength. Just now, Tang Tian's lightning-like fist had shocked her. But against a middle stage 4th level wild beast, a rank 2 martial technique killing technique was far from enough. The little girl's face immediately revealed joy. She shouted loudly, "Mommy! Sword! Throw the sword over!" Rumble rumble. If only there was a sword. The hard and tough green bamboo struck onto Tang Tian's body. The broken bamboo flew out like arrows, piercing into Tang Tian's flesh. The bamboo branches struck onto Tang Tian's body, causing streaks of blood to intertwine. Tang Tian grinned. His sparkling red eyes made his smile look extremely bewitching. The devilish smile seemed to have not dissipated in the air when Tang Tian's figure suddenly disappeared. The ink black iron rhino frantically twisted its body, but no matter how it twisted, Tang Tian was like a piece of sticky candy, tightly glued to its back as if he had gone mad, punching after punching at the ink black iron rhino. Sword. Han Bingning stared blankly at Tang Tian, To actually be able to stand up after receiving the ink black iron rhino's true power attack. Just how strong was this guy's physique? He. Tang Tian let out an involuntary roar. His face was completely distorted and his body was like an inflated balloon. Every bit of strength was exploding. The ink black iron rhino let out an angry roar, its slightly squatting limbs suddenly exerting force. All of her strength was in her sword. If he had a sword in hand, he might be able to contend with this ink black iron rhino. Tang Tian, its murky pupils overflowed with an ominous glint. Its dark green scales made it look like an ancient heavy-armored knight, full of pressure. The horn on its forehead was not considered sharp but thick and coarse. However, it had pierced through countless enemies that dared to violate its dignity. Her face was slightly pale. Tang Tian's eyes were wide open in anger. His horse stance was still intact, but his legs were nailed even deeper to his knees. Both his hands were tightly grabbing onto the ink black iron rhino's forehead. His body that was like cast iron was extremely low and his muscles were all tensed up. Her jade-like feet lightly stepped on the ground. The ground was a mess. Although the man and the beast had collided for a short period of time, but there were cracks everywhere. Exclamations came from behind. No one would have thought that the ink black iron rhino would actually drill into the bamboo forest. Tang Tian forgot everything else. In his eyes, there was only the ink black iron rhino in front of him. Tang Tian did not feel anything. Like a crazy demon, his fists rained down on the ink black iron rhino's back. But the ink black iron rhino let out a low growl. Han Bingning, who was on top of the bamboo, was dumbstruck. The man and beast's contest of strength completely subverted her common sense. The impact it brought was incomparable. The sound of heavy breathing was mixed with a low growl. The ink black iron rhino plunged into the bamboo forest. The bamboo that was as thick as the mouth of a bowl was instantly broken into pieces. Possessed. Was it possessed? Han Bingning bit her lips. If she had a sword, she could go down and fight with the ink black iron rhino for a while. Tang Tian could take the opportunity to escape the battlefield, and then she could use her qing gong to escape. One man and one beast facing each other. The ink black iron rhino suddenly let out a deafening roar. It spread out its four limbs and rushed into the bamboo forest. The little girl's face became even paler. Hey, you're dead. Bang. Upon seeing that, Tang Tian desperately hammered towards the broken parts of the scales. The sharp crane energy minute collapsing fist very quickly cut out many small wounds. Nan Nan's mother's reaction was extremely fast. Xiao, a sword with a scabbard, flew out from the bamboo forest. Without saying a word, Tang Tian's fists rained down on the ink black iron rhino's body. Han Bingning quickly calculated in her heart. If she were to escape with Tang Tian, would she have a chance of winning? The little girl's eyes lit up. She picked up the bamboo whistle on her neck and blew it with force. Bang! The dark green light once again shone from the rhino's horn, but this time Tang Tian did not seem to feel it. What a strong aura! Han Bingning's face changed. Tang Tian was in danger. Xiaonan, where are you? An anxious voice came from the bamboo forest. Time seemed to stop at this moment. One man and one beast, every muscle in their body were exerting all their strength. Tang Tian's pupils were blood red. But in a moment she understood that this idea would not work. Her qing gong was light and graceful, but it was not known for its speed. If she were to bring another person, she would definitely not be able to escape from the ink black iron rhino. Han Bingning's pupils suddenly contracted. The hand that was holding the sword subconsciously tightened and her face was filled with shock. Die. The sharp sound of the bamboo whistle spread far and wide. Han Bingning stared at the man and beast on the ground. Her emotions were very complicated at this moment. Tang Tian's act of sacrificing himself to save the little girl made her see his bravery and kindness. But he still tried in vain to fight the ink black iron rhino head-on. He was overestimating himself. It slowly closed in on Tang Tian, its short but powerful limbs, every step it took, caused dust to fly up and created a rumbling sound. A middle-stage fourth-rank ink black iron rhino's strength was tyrannical. It was not something a martial artist could match up to. Tang Tian narrowed his eyes. His two legs seemed to be nailed into the ground and his body did not move an inch. The ink black iron rhino was firmly pressed down. Its mouth had sunk into the soil. He was completely enraged. When had it ever been humiliated like this? When had it ever been suppressed by someone in terms of strength that it had always been proud of? But what surprised her was that the ink-black iron rhino did not seem to feel anything. It suddenly stopped in its tracks and squatted down again. Its horn pointed straight at Tang Tian, who was lying on the ground not far away. On the tip of the bamboo, the little girl's face was pale. She anxiously raised her head. "Big sister, can you save big brother?" Roar, roar, roar. Han Bingning's beautiful eyes suddenly widened. Could it be? He did not care at all. He just punched one after another, crazily striking on the back of the ink-black iron rhino. Wild savage. The two figures collided again. On the ground, the ink-black iron rhino slowly approached Tang Tian. How could a human's strength be so strong? Big brother. Tang Tian, who was in a berserk state, the power of his minute-collapsing fist rose sharply. Every punch had an extremely strong collapsing force, drilling into the ink-black iron rhino's body. The crane's body revolved with all its might. Every burst of true power was as sharp as a beak. On the scales that were comparable to fine steel, very quickly many fine straight scars appeared. The trembling of the ground was not as rapid as before. Every sound seemed to be knocking on people's hearts. Its head slowly but firmly raised up and its four limbs slowly straightened up. Tang Tian tried his best to suppress it, but the power coming from his hands was getting stronger and stronger, each wave stronger than the one before. It slowly walked towards Tang Tian, who was on the ground. It was like a deep and dignified king of beasts, bringing along supreme arrogance and aggressiveness. Tang Tian struggled to stand up. His naked upper body was covered in mud. He spat out the mud from his mouth and slowly raised his head. Her heart suddenly gave birth to a sense of helplessness. Even if she had a sword in her hand, she did not know if she had the courage to challenge the king of beasts in front of her. What a strong brute force. The little girl immediately used her hands and feet to hug the bamboo. Tang Tian. One palm pressed on the ground, the other also pressed on the ground. Both palms were covered in mud. Countless of mud flew everywhere. One man and one beast collided violently, instantly forming a shallow pit. The ink-black iron rhino suddenly let out an angry roar. It squatted down with its four limbs, exerting force at the same time. Its huge and heavy body disappeared in the air. Han Bingning was bewildered. It was not the first time she had seen someone bedeviled. But the Tang Tian in front of her, for some reason, was emitting a dangerous aura that caused people's hearts to palpitate. Han Bingning's gaze turned solemn. Bending down, her sleeves fluttering in the wind, she was like a big bird flying downwards. Mummy. The little girl finally could not hold it in any longer. Her mouth flattened and she burst into tears. With the sword in her hand, Han Bingning's heart settled down. All the hesitation and lack of confidence was swept away. She whispered to the little girl, "Hug the bamboo." Tang Tian's body was slowly propped up. Tang Tian suddenly let out an angry roar. His two legs, which were deeply nailed into the ground, suddenly exerted force, and he also disappeared in an instant. A vigorous and ruthless strange force, like a heavy hammer, fiercely collided with Tang Tian's hands, which were tightly holding onto the rhino's horn, and directly entered his body. The ink-black iron rhino walked until it was 3 zhang away from Tang Tian and stopped. Just as Han Bingning was puzzled, Tang Tian, who was lying motionless on the ground, suddenly moved. The current Tang Tian was like a real wild beast. Hoo-hoo. 2 afterimages flashed in the air and collided with a loud bang. Tang Tian seemed to see an ancient knight, wearing heavy armor, slowly approaching. A savage and wild aura pounced on him. That punch just now made him feel pain, and this feeling was very unfamiliar. Han Bingning lightly bit her lips and helplessly shook her head. "I didn't bring my sword." Tang Tian's body lowered, and he lowered his waist into a horse stance, adopting the exact same posture as before. The most direct collision of strength. Its 4 limbs frantically moved and its entire body was struggling. Tang Tian instantly understood what the ink-black iron rhino was trying to do. This fellow had thick skin and thick flesh, and those bamboos were like tickles to it. But to Tang Tian, those bamboos were dangerous. Bang! Han Bingning was very clear on how terrifying a middle-stage 4th-level wild beast was. A small piece of scale cracked and flew into the air. Tang Tian also heard the bamboo whistle, but he was not distracted at all. He focused all of his attention on the ink black iron rhino in front of him. From the looks of it, it was not easy to deal with. Minute collapsing fist. Wild beasts that were 4th level and above should have a very strong intuition towards danger. 4th level wild beasts already had some intelligence, and in this jaded swamp sea of bamboos, it was the true overlord. Its prestige had never been challenged, and this was its territory. Chapter 28. Did I kill it? Tang Tian was stunned. He looked down and jumped up. He exclaimed, why is it under my butt? That's not right. Why isn't it moving? Looks like it's dead. Impossible. That's right. Han Bingning nodded her head. There are no traces of anyone else at the scene. Really? Tang Tian's gaze did not waver. His expression was serious. She calmed herself down and said indifferently, he hunted a ink black iron rhino. He couldn't find a buyer. Guys, take a look. If there's anything useful, then buy it. He tried hard to recall, but he only remembered that the big stupid bull rushed into the sea of bamboos with all his might. He used his fists and punched it with all his might. After that, he could not remember anything. In the next moment, the serious expression on his face melted and turned into a radiant smile, revealing 2 rows of snow-white teeth. Tang Tian jumped down from the ink black iron rhino's corpse. He looked around and asked curiously, why would there be such a heavy and big fellow in the jaded swamp sea of bamboos? Wouldn't it sink into the swamp? But the ink black iron rhino's corpse was right in front of her. Even the wounds on the ink black iron rhino's body showed that it was Tang Tian's doing. Tang Tian's entire body was covered in wounds. They had followed the tracks left by the ink black iron rhino to find it. How could he have killed such a ferocious guy? Wow, so powerful. Tang Tian was surprised. Han Bingning looked at Tang Tian. Tang Tian's blank expression was unfathomable to her. Was he pretending? Did he really not know? You've never heard of it? Han Bingning suddenly asked. Big brother. Big brother. Young lad, the ink black iron rhino's most valuable part is its spirit nucleus. It can be used to make spirit cards. But I suggest that you don't sell it. Use it to nurture your martial spirit. There are 621 complete ink scales. Just enough to weave a water element armor. Other than that, this rhino horn is worth quite a lot. The appraiser was very familiar with it. Tang Tian suddenly held his chin and fell into deep thought. His expression was serious, as if he was thinking about a very serious problem. Han Bingning came back to her senses. She felt that her thoughts just now were a little ridiculous. The key was that she still hadn't figured out what kind of person Tang Tian was. Tang Tian shook his head. Oh, yes. The appraiser walked to the side of the ink black iron rhino's corpse, circling it once, clicking his tongue in wonder. I didn't expect it to really be the ink black iron rhino. Lad, your strength isn't bad. To be able to hunt an ink black iron rhino, that's true ability. Han Bingning sighed in her heart. This was the first time she had such a feeling. Usually, those young talents around her, they had outstanding talent, elegant manners, they knew how to be romantic, they knew how to enjoy life. Everyone thought that they were brimming with talent. Han Bingning nodded. Go ahead. Follow the market price. Little Nan Nan raised her tender palm again and shouted in a childish voice, Big brother is more powerful. Han Bingning resisted the urge to roll her eyes. And that was ruthless enough. I almost couldn't get up. Tang Tian had a lingering fear in his heart. Han Bingning's first reaction was to reject this judgment. Tang Tian patted little Nan Nan's head. He was extremely fond of this kind and cute little girl. Little Nan Nan narrowed her eyes, her face full of enjoyment. It seemed to be a girl very unfamiliar, but it was this voice that pulled him back from his muddle-headedness, causing him to slowly wake up. Suddenly, Han Bingning found it hard to define this seemingly simple fellow in front of her. This was the first time Han Bingning had seen a completely different kind of person from these people. If one were to say that these people were flowers in a greenhouse, then Tang Tian was like weeds in the wild. As long as there was a bit of sunlight and a bit of fertilizer, he would be able to grow crazily regardless of wind or rain. Tang Tian turned his head in all directions, looking left and right as he muttered, That stupid cow brought me here? What is this place? Where's that stupid cow? Yes. When the master heard this, he hurriedly nodded his head. Tang Tian nodded his head heavily, his expression becoming more and more solemn. very good. Tang Tian ran in front of Han Bingning, his face full of enthusiasm as he asked, "Cultivating a martial spirit, what is it for? Young girl, tell me." Little Nan Nan tried hard to puff out her chest, her little face full of pride. "Nan Nan is the best. Under the buttocks. It was killed by me?" Tang Tian blankly pointed at himself, his face full of disbelief. Han Bingning did not say anything, but when she heard this she could not help but roll her eyes. If it was someone else they would not be able to get up. But Nan Nan did not have such complicated thoughts. She raised her chubby palm. It was killed by Big Brother. Han Bingning secretly remembered these characteristics in her heart. When the time comes she will go to school and ask the principal. In Han Bingning's mind the other experts appeared, each of their tall and confident figures. If placed beside Tang Tian, they would really be bean sprouts. "When we found you, you were already like this," Han Bingning lightly said. "We guarded you for 3 days." Han Bingning's eyes slightly narrowed. There was indeed a problem. The reason why she stayed here was to listen to what the master could see. Tang Tian scratched his head, grinning foolishly. "I also do not know how I hunted it. Brave but not astute, inflexible, abnormal physical qualities. But now the image of Tang Tian in her heart had been completely changed. Very quickly the master opened the curtain and entered. Seeing Han Bingning he stepped forward and bowed. "Mississippi, cultivating a martial spirit." Tang Tian's face was blank. Shua, a little head with braids, appeared, her face full of surprise. "Big brother, you finally woke up. This guy is the real beast. Yo, young lady, you are very powerful." Tang Tian moved his head over, his face full of praise. "We're here." Han Bingning's voice was cold, her face expressionless. "Guarded me for 3 days?" Tang Tian immediately reacted, hurriedly said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you so much." Suddenly remembering that he had suffered many injuries on the body of the stupid cow, Tang Tian looked down, only to discover that the wounds on his body had already scabbed. It was killed by Big Brother. Little Nan Nan tried to loudly show her existence. Tang Tian asked in a daze. He subconsciously struggled to sit up, looking around an unfamiliar environment. "Where is this?" After a while the master shook his head. "I can't tell." Han Bingning had been secretly observing Tang Tian before today. Her heart was only filled with disdain, contempt and confusion. Disdain and contempt were towards Tang Tian, confusion towards Shanghai. In the entire Star Wind City, the number of experts with such strength could be counted on one's fingers. Who were finally here. "I'm so tired. If only the housefly cow was here." Tang Tian wiped his sweat as he muttered to himself. Tang Tian actually dragged it, walking for dozens of miles, and still had the appearance of a dragon and a tiger. "You are, I don't know." Han Bingning explained. "The scales on its body, also known as ink scales, are very good water scales. Not only can it live in swamps, it can also live in large rivers. Truly a flower in a greenhouse." The shopkeeper and the master secretly looked at each other, their eyes frequently looking at Tang Tian. "Yes." The shopkeeper did not dare to ask any more, and hurriedly urged the waiter to go to the backyard to call the master to take a look. "This time I really have to thank you." At this time Nan Nan's mother also opened her mouth to express her gratitude, her face full of gratitude. "Nan Nan is very naughty. I did not think that she would cause such a big trouble. If not for you, I do not dare to imagine the consequences." "What kind of person was he? Where can we sell this thing?" "Can be sold for a lot of money." The master stared blankly and immediately said disapprovingly, "Too modest. This kind of thing cannot be guessed. It has a spirit core. It should be middle stage 4th level." The master looked very carefully. "The grade is very good, but it's a pity that the ink scales are too damaged. Every piece is a loss. It looks like Minute Collapsing Fist, but the cracks of Minute Collapsing Fist are not so smooth, and Minute Collapsing Fist has no way to break the ink scales. Strange, really strange." Tang Tian looked at the little girl and suddenly remembered. Ah, you are that little fellow that was chased that day. Oh wait, how did I run here? How did it become him who killed it?" Han Bingning turned her face to the master and said, "Keep the spirit core for him, sell the rest." This person was too strange. Suddenly Tang Tian thought of a question and pointed to the ink armor iron rhino below him, asking, "What kind of monster is this?" "Big brother, the big stupid cow is under your butt," the little girl said cheerfully. Tang Tian followed the voice and lowered his head, then discovered a little hand was trying its best to climb up. A middle-aged lady chased and shouted from behind, "Nan Nan, be careful, don't fall." How did the injuries on my body heal? Tang Tian was greatly surprised. Little Nan Nan raised her little palm. "It's bamboo queen bee glue." Little Nan Nan applied bamboo queen bee glue on Big Brother. "It's very useful." A cheerful voice came out from below. Han Bingning's heart moved but still insisted on nodding her head. "You killed it." Ink Armor Iron Rhino. Han Bingning suddenly opened her mouth. Middle stage 4th level wild beast, valiant power, vicious temperament, extraordinary strength. It has already formed a spirit core and can use true power. You should have experienced its power. Han Bingning was already completely shocked by Tang Tian's valiant body quality. She tested it. This Ink Armor Iron Rhino's weight exceeded 900 kilograms. It was simply a mountain of meat. She suddenly thought, don't tell me Jie Shangguan was moved by these things of his? After a while, Tang Tian still did not move. Han Bingning could not restrain herself. Her beautiful eyes stirred. "What are you thinking about, miss? Don't tell me there's some secret?" Tang Tian scratched his head and laughed. "I still don't understand the situation." This was Ink Armor Iron Rhino, a middle stage 4th level wild beast. Its strength in this region was definitely at the king level. Even if she were to face it, she would only be able to contend with it for a period of time. To kill such a valiant wild beast, it required at least the strength of a 4th level upper stage. Tang Tong. Tang Tong. In a daze, Tang Tian faintly heard someone calling him. Hearing that, Tang Tian raised his head, looked at Han Bingning and asked seriously, "Did I really kill it?" Tang Tian struggled to open his eyes. The glaring sunlight made him subconsciously shrink his eyes. After a while he adapted. He opened his eyes again and an unfamiliar face entered his eyes. A shopkeeper saw Han Bingning and immediately dropped his work and ran over. Chapter 29. Old Fart Wei still had some private goods. Interesting. As expected, there was a weapon cabinet in the void and he could open it whenever he wanted. Father Han coughed lightly. "Bingning, I heard that you made a new friend today?" He tried to put the black iron gloves in his hand into the weapon cabinet. As soon as he willed it, the black iron gloves in his hand disappeared. The explosive power within 8 steps was astonishing. "That's right." Han Bingning nodded. Every spirit card requires a martial spirit imprint. As such, the person's martial spirit will be weakened. To nurture and strengthen the martial spirit is something that every martial artist must do. The spirit nucleus is used for that. There are many other uses for the martial spirit, and the more solid the martial spirit is, the less you will be affected by the surrounding environment. How could she like such a man who was boorish, crazy, and always had a confused look on his face? "Hey young lady Han, let's go. This young man is going to train." "It's very good." The shopkeeper nodded. Although compared to Aries constellation and Sagittarius constellation, Fornax constellation is a small constellation. But Fornax constellation has always been known to produce superior weapons. The real Fornax weapons are split into 4 series: the Black Metal series, Bronze series, Silver series and Gold series. The Black Metal series is extremely durable and its defense is amazing. Strictly speaking, the 4 series of Fornax weapons are already considered as star treasures, and their value is not low. Father Han and Mother Han looked at each other. The woman's face was full of worries and the two of them were already worried, but now they were even more worried. Unprecedented. Tang Tian was overjoyed. 8 steps overtaking Cicada was a rank 3 light body technique and it involved more techniques to use true power. Among the rank 3 light body techniques, the explosive power of 8 steps overtaking Cicada could be ranked in the top 3. Big Brother. Han Bingning regained her senses from her thoughts and subconsciously said, "Yes, he is quite an interesting person." The Crane-style Qi manual was indeed the true inheritance of the Crane sect. Tang Tian immediately felt that there was something else in his body. Han Bingning's expression froze and she frowned. "Why would I like him?" As usual, Han Bingning returned home. Even so, Tang Tian, who was still in a state of shock, glared and roared, "Powerful my ass." Tang Tian had finally mastered the aerial with stake. So he began to practice the 8 steps overtaking Cicada. Tang Tian looked up at the sky with a puzzled expression. Could it be that something wasn't right? Tang Tian was full of ambition. Han Bingning didn't know what to say for a while, so she simply changed the topic. Do you want money or something else? I have a weapon. Tang Tian shook his head and took it out of his backpack. What? Tang Tian quickly asked. Behind her, Father Han and Mother Han were having a heated discussion. Only a hearty victory was worthy of a godlike man. His true power could be used more freely. Han Bingning didn't know what to say. She looked at her parents speechlessly. After a few days, the scabs on Tang Tian's body fell off completely, revealing new skin without any scars. Tang Tian extended his hand without hesitation. I want this. Daughter. Mother Han couldn't help but say, although I know you like Xianxia, but don't you like her man too? Whoosh, little Nan Nan borrowed the force and flew in a high parabola in the air, pouncing towards Tang Tian from afar. Little Nan Nan's cheers came out from the sea of bamboos. A pink figure, borrowing the elasticity of the bamboos, was like a little meatball, bouncing around the sea of bamboos at lightning speed. Tang Tian was enlightened. No wonder only 4th level and above can create spirit cards. Little Nan Nan's mouth flattened, her eyes filled with tears. Nan Nan just learned light body techniques. Every day Tang Tian would be drenched in sweat. Not far from him, Nan Nan would be hugging snacks and eating happily. Dried meat, candied fruits, nuts, her little pocket seemed to be endless. Father Han and Mother Han looked at each other again. This time the worry in their eyes spread to their faces. Interesting. Since when did their daughter praise someone interesting? Their daughter had been in school for so many years, but she had never praised any boy interesting in front of them. Tang Tian returned to the jaded swamp sea of bamboos and started to train his shoddy light body techniques. He did not even know how he won against the ink black iron rhino the last time. The scabs on his body were almost all over his body. If not for little Nan Nan's bamboo queen bee wax, he would probably be on his last breath. First time. If it's something used for training like star rocks, it can increase the speed of your true power training. But it's not recommended for those below the 4th level. If you use star rocks too early, your foundation will not be good and it will not be good for your future. The shopkeeper quickly said. If it's a weapon, Aries constellation's standard little white goat sword, Sagittarius constellation's small Sagittarius bow, are both very good. The black metal gloves kept disappearing and reappearing on his hands. He was playing with them happily like a child. Other things. Tang Tian was immediately interested. What can I exchange for? Tang Tian shook his head with a face of confusion. I don't know. You don't know about cultivating martial spirits? Han Bingning looked at Tang Tian. The Aquarius Martial Cabinet can store 6 weapons and can also store some miscellaneous items, but the capacity is limited. This is the Aquarius constellation's entry-level star treasure, which is also known as the Small Martial Cabinet. The shopkeeper's tongue was glib. With it you can say goodbye to your luggage and travel is convenient. If you are an all-rounder, then you should have such a weapon cabinet. It will not be stolen, it will not be lost. With just a thought, the weapon will fly into your hands. Any young man with ambition should have an Aquarius Martial Cabinet. Really? Really? Little Nan Nan's face lit up, and the tears disappeared without a trace. Completely from the bottom of my heart. Tang Tian saw that the situation was not good, and his face was full of smiles. Yeah, I say, no wonder the young lady flying through the sky is so heroic and graceful. Sounds powerful. Tang Tian nodded his head as if he understood. Han Bingning's expression was sluggish, she was already regretting it. But to the crane body it was not a difficult matter. Although he could not recall the fierce battle, Tang Tian quickly realized the crane body in his body had become more solid. Although his true power did not increase by much, but after the crane body became stronger, Tang Tian realized with just a thought his true power would gather like 1,000 tides, surging endlessly. Han Bingning's father stared. Xianxia? What's wrong with Xianxia? Our family's Bingning, compared to Xianxia, is not one bit inferior. At most we will compete. Compete? Why are you talking about competition? How can Tang Tian, that kind of rascal, be worthy of our daughter? There's a problem. You have the Fornax black metal gloves, you will definitely not be interested in ordinary goods. The shopkeeper laughed. But there is a very interesting star treasure here. Aquarius constellations, Aquarius Martial Cabinet. The shopkeeper took out a necklace. On the necklace, there was a small bottle the size of a pinky, sparkling and translucent, with a beautiful and warm luster. At the last step, Tang Tian fiercely stepped on the ground. His body pounced forward like a fish. He dangerously grabbed onto little Nan Nan. But the weakness was obvious. The consumption of true power was high, not suitable for long-distance travel. It was a classic light body technique. Interesting. What made Tang Tian even more surprised was, with the crane body's strength, his true power was like a drum. After 8 continuous steps, his true power did not show any signs of exhaustion. Fornak's black metal gloves. The shopkeeper's eyes lit up. Good weapon. The Fornax Constellation's black metal gloves are rare. There are not many produced every year. It is very difficult to buy. I did not expect you to have the means to get it. Han Bingning facepalmed. She could not bear to look. She suddenly regretted bringing this clown to her family's shop. Her mind was still recalling the past few days. The more she thought about it, the more she found it hard to understand. Makes sense. Makes sense. Old man, you are really far-sighted. Mother Han was enlightened. She slapped her thighs. No, we have to find a chance. We have to investigate. Tang Tian quivered. His right leg kicked. He ran, his eyes wide open, his cheeks puffed up. He used all his strength to run forward. More importantly, the shopkeeper stuck out a finger. Your item can be exchanged for one. Han Bingning's eyes flashed. When you reach the 4th level, you will have a martial spirit, which contains your understanding of various martial techniques. We will imprint a part of the martial spirit on the card, which is the current spirit card. What do you mean by the heart? Short-sighted. How many people can kill a middle-stage 4th level ink black iron rhino? Looking at it now, Jia Shengguan is the best. Think about it, to be able to see Tang Tian's potential so early, it is really not easy. Is it very powerful? Tang Tian's eyes lit up. The small bottle was placed in his palm. When Tang Tian instigated his true power into the small bottle immediately turned into a ray of light and entered Tang Tian's body. Tang Tian was immediately energized. Don't be anxious. Father Han's eyes flashed with a deep and far-sighted light. Let's not beat the grass and scare the snake. Our daughter is thin-skinned. If we keep talking about her, she will definitely not be able to take it. After playing, Tang Tian placed Brother Stonehead's black iron gloves into the Aquarius martial cabinet contentedly. He clenched his fist and made an expression of determination. Yo, young man Tang, you are really strong. You still don't understand? Who else has our daughter praised? With her cold personality, she finally found someone she likes, and you still don't encourage her? Don't tell me you want our daughter to not marry for the rest of her life? Why don't you think about it? Is she someone who forced herself to marry? But what Tang Tian did not expect was that the aerial wooden stake training made him want to vomit blood, but the 8 steps overtaking cicada was extremely fast. After half a day, Tang Tian suddenly realized that the 8 steps overtaking cicada was a test of the usage of true power. Big brother is so powerful. Little Nan Nan happily clapped her meaty palms. The parabola swept past his head without any intention of stopping. Wah wah wah, big brother, quickly catch me. The satisfied Tang Tian waved his hand, not taking away a single cloud. It was better to have this kind of victory a few times less. She could not do anything to her parents and could only say, I am going to train my sword. Chapter 30. Han Bingning was shocked. Principal, you don't have to, everyone is working hard. Star Wind Martial Meets preliminary competition. Although it was often hailed as a breeding ground for black horses, but it was actually a competition ground for low-leveled competitors. The real experts, with a bit of fame, would be selected as seeded competitors and directly enter the main competition. The cold laughter made a Maori immediately become well-behaved like a good baby. Every generation of the crane sect, who knows how many people spend their entire lives searching for ways to train the crane body. The middle-aged lady said seriously, Crane's spiritual master was able to rely on his own strength to create the heavenly crane constellation. How valiant was he? In the past 300 years, other than Lion King Leong, who subdued the raging Lionheart sword and established the supreme hegemony of Leo constellation, who else could accomplish such a feat? To be able to rely on his own strength in Heaven's Road, to create his own constellation, are all heaven-defying experts. Their true teachings are the world's top martial arts. She regretted bringing the ink scale armor today. Old Fart Wei shouted as though he was injected with chicken blood. Young man. For the great revival of Caramel Academy fight. There are so many people in the preliminary competition. Amauri was shocked. Tangtian. The middle-aged lady shook her head. I have never heard of him, seems like he is really new. Bingning, you must be careful against this person, you must not let your guard down. The crane body has a special characteristic that very few people know, and that is, its chi is long and its endurance is astonishing. The crane chi is continuous, curling in spirals. When boss Liang Qiu said to watch the preliminary competition, Ming Guang felt that it was inconceivable. Preliminary competition? What did the preliminary competition have to do with them? They were all seeded competitors. Ming Guang was ranked 10th in the Beast Academy, so of course he did not need to go through the preliminary competition. Tang Tian replied and subconsciously walked in the direction that little Nan Nan pointed. Old Fart Wei jumped up as though his tail was stepped on. Amauri, you actually don't have any other thoughts about the school's situation? Shouldn't your blood be boiling and fight to change the school's predicament? Tang Tian's eyelids were extremely heavy, and as long as he found a place he would be able to fall asleep. Last night he had just gone through a round of bitter cultivation. After 10 days of bitter cultivation he was completely exhausted. In the end, not long after he fell asleep, he was pulled up by Old Fart Wei to participate in the preliminaries. What made them even more surprised was that Senior Wang Zhen actually had a face of approval. Tian Lin and Ming Guang looked at each other. They couldn't figure out what went wrong with the two seniors. The Star Wind Martial Meet was Star Wind City's biggest festival. Not only did the various academies of Star Wind City participate in the martial meet, there were also many martial artists that came from other places. The Star Wind Martial Meet was not only limited to students. It was an open competition. The generous prizes attracted a large number of foreign martial artists. By God! Am I seeing things? Isn't that Liang Qiu? My idol. Tang Tian yawned and turned to leave. Amauri looked at Old Fart Wei sympathetically and turned to look for the competition grounds. The number of pedestrians on the streets was several times more than usual, and almost all the inns were overcrowded. The four of them went in two different directions. This change was out of everyone's expectations. Some of the students who were not participating in the competition followed behind. A beautiful middle-aged lady with a small piece of ink scale in her hand had a hint of surprise in her beautiful eyes. The opponent and the judge had not arrived yet. Without saying a word, Tang Tian fell asleep. His head had just touched the ground and loud snoring sounds immediately rose and fell. Bang! A fist fell from the sky and heavily smashed on his head. Liang Qiu turned a blind eye to these gazes and said indifferently, I'm going to see a Maori. The students who participated in the preliminaries were all from ordinary academies. Seeing their idol, they were extremely excited. Suddenly, the middle-aged lady thought of a question that had been ignored for a long time. Bing Ning, who is this person? Could it be that I have not been out for a long time? When did Star Wind City have a new genius? Fundamental Tang, are you excited? Amauri turned to ask Tang Tian. Crane Body Energy? Han Bingning had never heard of this name before. Star Wind Martial Meet has preliminaries? Amauri was surprised. Why didn't I know about it? Practice minute collapsing fist. Tang Tian continued to yawn, his expression sluggish. Liang Qiu's weird suggestion made Tian Lin and Ming Guang feel weird. Senior Liang Qiu was the most popular candidate for the champion of Star Wind Martial Meet, and he actually came to watch the preliminaries? The Crane sect has lost its true inheritance and has been in decline for many years. The position of the heavenly crane constellation in the past is something you can't imagine now. The middle-aged lady was full of emotions. She shook her head and sighed. Never did I expect to see the true inheritance of the Crane sect here. No way. The middle-aged lady waved her hand and straightforwardly interrupted Han Bingning's words. In this period of time I have been too lax. I want to lead by example and fight on the front lines. Wang Zhen nodded. I'm going to see Tang Tian. No matter what, she could not connect the rude and unruly fellow with the current world's strongest martial artists. Tian Lin and Ming Guang looked at each other. Tian Lin followed boss Liang Qiu, while Ming Guang followed boss Wang Zhen. The number of martial artists participating in this year's martial meet was the highest ever. On the light body technique ropeway outside the city, There were many figures stepping on all kinds of light body techniques shuttling back and forth. When the four of them arrived at the venue, they were immediately frightened by the terrifying flow of people. The densely packed human flow, bustling with activity, and the astonishing sound waves rumbled. Tang Tian and Amauri were dumbstruck. They wanted to see what kind of competition could actually attract the four-seated participants. She passed the ink scale to Han Bingning and said, "The crane sex mental cultivation technique is called Crane-Style Qi Manual. Crane-Style Qi Manual is cryptic and hard to understand. The difficulty of training is extremely high. The true inheritance of Crane-Style Qi Manual is called the crane body. It is rumored upon training the crane body the true power will be as sharp as a crane's beak. The destructive power will be extremely strong, so it is also called the crane body energy. I don't know what happened in the crane sect, but they lost the true inheritance and now no one knows how to train the crane body. I never thought I would actually see it here." Old Fart Wei's expression was not good. "Amauri, if you lose the competition today, hee. So powerful?" Han Bingning's beautiful eyes widened. The principal's tone was filled with praise, which was extremely rare. "What's there to see in the preliminary competition?" Ming Guang mumbled he did not dare to speak loudly. For these four experts to appear in the preliminary competition, it was such a strange thing. "Oh, that's right, the third last ranked school should start fighting from the preliminary competition." Amauri's face was suddenly enlightened. Han Bingning's face was slightly pale. The principal was a real training maniac. Once he started training, it would be a nightmare for her to supervise the training. After a long time she retracted her gaze. But since the two big bosses had spoken, they could only obediently obey. Time passed quickly as the Star Wind martial meet approached. Star Wind City became lively. Heavenly Crane Constellation? Han Bingning was surprised. She had heard of this constellation before, but it was a very obscure constellation. Why would a Beast Academy student need to participate in the preliminary competition? Beast Academy is such a famous school. Of course they don't need to participate in the preliminary competition. Old Fart Wei said, "Our recent situation is not too good. We have to start from the preliminary competition." "Hey Old Fart, why did you pull us here so early? You're delaying our sleep time." Tang Tian complained as he walked. Little Nan Nan sat on his shoulder, her face full of satisfaction as she ate her snacks. The middle-aged lady muttered to herself, "He should have only obtained the mental cultivation technique, if not he would not have trained in the minute collapsing fist. Although this minute collapsing fist is rather mature, but compared to the crane sex martial techniques, it is still lacking." Hall 3897. A large number of martial artists participated, causing the Star Wind martial meet to become even more lively and attractive. Many people specially came from faraway cities to Star Wind City to observe the martial meet. "This is the crane body energy." The middle-aged lady put down the ink scale. "Yes, very few people know about it now." The middle-aged lady muttered. "The crane sect originated from the crane's spiritual master. Today's heavenly crane constellation is the constellation he opened up in Heaven's Road. The crane's spiritual master's background is unknown. It is highly possible that he is a descendant of the ancient Eastern sections. Non-seeded participants all have to start from the preliminary competition." Old Fart Wei was very calm. He took out a piece of paper from his bosom, lowered his head and looked through it carefully, his mouth muttering, "Oh, Amauri is at Hall 5267. Young Tang is at Hall 3897. Hey, do you see that sign? You guys go check your own venue location. This is your competition pass, keep it well. Idiot, participate in the preliminary competition." Old Fart Wei looked at him with disdain. Genius young man. In his eyes, the preliminary competition was just a competition between a few people who did not make the cut. The real experts competition were all carried out by the seeded participants. Nan Nan sat on Tang Tian's shoulder looking around. Suddenly her eyes lit up, grabbing onto Tang Tian's hair with all her might. The other hand pointed to the right front, shouting, "Big brother, there. It was all because of that damn Tang Tian." But everyone did not understand such an expert. Why would he come to watch the preliminary competition? There must be an inside story. Han Bingning's mouth twitched. She forcefully endured. "It's Caramel Academy's Tang Tian. What did you do last night?" Old Fart Wei asked curiously. Han Bingning did not reply. The middle-aged lady suddenly stood up, muttering to herself, "Seems like I have been too relaxed recently. From today onwards, I will personally supervise your training." Minute collapsing fist? That is too exciting. Fundamental Tang, let us fight to our heart's content. Yeah. A Maori raised his blade and shouted. The students at the venue were all discussing. These 4 people were all Star Wind City's academies. All of them were famous experts. As for Liang Qiu and Wang Zhen, they were idol-level experts with countless of admirers. Han Bingning's cherry lips slightly opened. She was flabbergasted. She felt that the principal was getting more and more ridiculous. "I want to sleep." Tang Tian yawned. Liang Qiu, Wang Zhen, Tianlin, Mingguang hiss, "What is the Beast Academy trying to do? Only 4 of the top 10 are here? Don't tell me the Beast Academy has some amazing people participating in the preliminary competition?" The 4 of them lined up, appearing in the venue, and immediately caused a commotion. Liang Qiu had an indifferent temperament, Wang Zhen was deep and honest, Tianlin was arrogant and cold, Mingguang was lively and handsome. The 4 of them had different temperaments, but they formed a striking scene. Chapter 31. Kai Shui and He Shaoqing quickly ran over. The spectators who were originally blocking the stands immediately turned pale and turned their heads to look at Sima Xiangshan in fear. Why is she here? At the entrance of the stands, there was an impenetrable crowd. They could not squeeze in. The 5 of them did not expect that the stands for the preliminaries would be so small. It could only accommodate 200 to 300 people. Their competition venue could accommodate thousands of people. That was why they thought of disguising themselves, hoping to not attract attention. "Please make way." Sima Xiangshan's voice was soft, but it could be heard by everyone. Low profile, low profile. Sima Xiangshan lowered his voice. He was wearing a woman's mask with heavy makeup on his face. He was dressed gorgeously. Those who did not know would think that he was a woman. The rumbling came to an abrupt stop. The expressions of the excited crowd instantly froze on their faces. Sima Xiangshan. What kind of person was worth Brother Zhen making a trip here? Mingguang suddenly lowered his voice. "Brother Zhen, there seems to be a lot of people following behind." In the dead silence, Tang Tian opened his eyes in a daze. Xin Yuan had just come out from his closed-door training when he was dragged by Boss Sima. He. Behind the thick mask there was a creepy laughter. Sima Xiangshan seemed to have discovered something interesting. A large group of people rushed in. When they saw Wang Zhen and Mingguang, their eyes lit up. They surrounded them. The small stands were filled with people. To watch the preliminaries, such a lame excuse, how could the principal agree to it? Kai Shui and He Shaoqing stared at the 2 people from Crystal Sky Academy. Crystal Sky and Northern Yen, the first and second place, naturally would not have a friendly relationship. Wang Zhen sensed something. He turned his face and looked at the entrance of the stands. Everyone was familiar with each other. They had fought against each other countless times. Wang Zhen was one of the big shots of Beast Academy. Everyone's status and experience were similar. Sima Xiangshan. Then they saw Wang Zhen and Mingguang. His strong strength and weird personality made him an existence that everyone feared. "Big brother Sima, we don't have to be so sneaky, right?" Xin Yuan touched the mask on his face and couldn't help but say. "Let's go and see the guy who defeated you." Sima Xiangshan's voice came from behind the mask, revealing an indescribable hair-raising feeling, causing goosebumps to appear all over Xin Yuan's body. But no one would think so. However, in a venue that could only accommodate 200 people, these 5 people could no longer be described as eye-catching. They were like the bright moon in the dark night, so eye-catching that they couldn't be any more eye-catching. Suddenly, Sima Xiangshan stopped in his tracks and turned around. Why are there so many people? Xin Yuan's face was filled with astonishment. This was only the preliminary round, but the viewing platform was actually filled with people. This was too illogical. The 2 sides, who were at daggers drawn, suddenly disappeared without a trace. Senior Sister Han suddenly brought them to the principal, saying that they were going to watch the Star Wind Martial Meet preliminaries. At that time their hearts were filled with worry. If Senior Sister wanted to find an excuse to leave the school, she should have found a more reliable excuse. 3 mysterious veiled women and 2 mysterious masked men suddenly appeared on the small viewing platform, instantly attracting everyone's attention. Tang Tian drowsily looked at the viewing platform that was filled with people. Suddenly he noticed Han Bingning on the viewing platform. Isn't Senior Sima here too? Han Bingning's voice was as cold as ice, without the slightest fluctuation. Dezhen, you always make things difficult for me. Sima Xianxia sighed helplessly and took off his mask. Han Bingning's face did not seem to have any fluctuations, but in a place where others couldn't see, the fingers that were holding the sword had turned white. Senior sister, which competition are we going to watch? Kai Shui asked curiously. Xin Yuan's gaze landed on Boss Sima's mask, and he felt a wave of nausea. Boss Sima's hobby was always so strange. Luckily his own mask was still relatively normal, just an ordinary clown mask. Xin Yuan's eyelids twitched and his expression changed slightly. In the entire Star Wind City, there were only 2 people who could contend against Boss Sima, Han Bingning and Liang Qiu. Xin Yuan had fought with Boss Sima many times before, and Boss Sima's strength made him unable to muster up the courage to resist. Tang Tian's spirit was roused and he immediately raised his arm up high, waving it towards the viewing platform and shouted loudly. Sima Xianxia moved to the side and made a pleased gesture. When the others on the viewing platform heard this, their ears immediately perked up. Wang Zhen's tone was so familiar, then these 5 people must not have simple backgrounds. Everyone's gaze turned towards Han Bingning. Cruel, ruthless, temperamental, neurotic. These 4 words made that devilish mask suddenly seem to have an additional frightening luster. What kind of preliminary competition was this? Boss Sima's strength was unfathomable. Even the always strict principal looked at him in a different light. No matter if it was Sima Xianxia or Han Bingning, they were all speechless by Wang Zhen's words. Couldn't this guy just pretend not to know? Kai Shui and He Shaoqin said at the same time. Sima Xiangxia's footsteps were extremely light, so light that there was no sound at all. His figure suddenly seemed to be covered with a layer of faint black halo, and an extremely dangerous aura instantly enveloped the entire audience. In the deafening sound, Han Bingning's expression was indifferent, and she did not move an inch. The viewing platform immediately exploded. Oh, probably not. Wang Zhen replied. Interesting. Behind the veil, Han Bingning's tone was like frost, and her beautiful eyes flashed a trace of playfulness. Miss Bingning. It has nothing to do with us. Ming Guang did not know where Brother Zhen's confidence came from. Ming Guang's heart was already very curious, although Brother Zhen's temper was quite good, but to specially come to the venue to watch a preliminary competition, this kind of thing had never happened before. Not far behind him, 3 women wearing veils and bamboo hats looked over from afar. Both sides just stared at each other from afar. But Star Wind City, when did such a powerful person appear? Oh, it's okay. Wang Zhen casually replied. His gaze was fixed on Tang Tian, who was sleeping in the corner of the viewing platform. Kai Shui was like a little bird that escaped from its cage, extremely cheerful. Although she was wearing a veil on her face, her youthfulness and liveliness could not be concealed. Senior sister is too powerful. The principal actually agreed to let us out. This is really unexpected. Wang Zhen recognized the 2 at a glance and his face was puzzled. Why are you dressed like this? Seems like this. Wang Zhen casually said. Voila. Kai Shui and He Shaoqin were confused. Watching the battle? What was there to watch in the preliminary competition? All the bad feelings that Ming Guang had previously had immediately disappeared. He was just about to put on an incomparably handsome pose, when he suddenly caught a glimpse of the viewing platform's entrance. What a coincidence. I never thought that Miss Bingning would also be interested in Tang Tian. Sima Xianxia laughed, his voice carrying an indescribable creepiness. Kai Shui and He Shaoqin's eyes flashed with shock. The 2 of them could not help but look at each other in dismay. If it was said that before they still did not understand why their senior sister would bring them to watch the preliminary competition, and why the principal would agree to let them go, then now when they found out that Tianjing Sima Xianxia had personally come, they understood that there must be some powerful person here. And Han Bingning was an expert that could directly confront Boss Sima. Wang Zhen and Ming Guang were the first to arrive. The viewing platform was empty. Ming Guang looked around the viewing platform. Brother Zhen, did we really come to the right place? Xin Yuan was stunned, but immediately reacted and suddenly turned around. Where did these people come from? The entire audience was dead silent. The surging tide of people made Ming Guang's scalp tingle. Brother Zhen, they really came. A lot of people. Wang Zhen replied, don't worry, it definitely has nothing to do with us. Senior Wang Zhen. Han Bingning politely greeted, simply taking off her veil and bamboo hat. Kai Shui and He Xiaoqin, seeing this, also took off their veils and bamboo hats. Come, let's go in. Wang Zhen did not even turn his head and walked into the viewing platform. For the first time she wanted to find a hole to hide in. Then allow me to open the way for Miss Bingning. Sima Xianxia laughed. He took a step forward and walked towards the viewing platform entrance. Everyone subconsciously opened up a path. Aha, young lady. Are you here to witness the first battle of a godlike young legend? Wow, young lady, your eyes are really on point. Ever since Jia Shangguan left Star Wind City, Sima Xianxia had always occupied the throne of Star Wind City's #1. But unlike Jia Shangguan, who was loved by many, Sima Xiangxian's notoriety could stop a baby from crying. Han Bingning. Sima Xiangxian softly said to himself. Han Bingning nodded at him to show her gratitude, then walked along the empty path towards the viewing platform. The people along the way subconsciously avoided her. Ming Guang watched and shook his head. The viewing platform was pitifully small. There was not a single person. There were too many preliminaries starting at the same time, and the standard was relatively low, so there was basically no audience. Usually it was the contestant's family or something like that. Sima Xiangshan. Han Bingning's cold voice made Kai Shui and He Xiaoqin's faces change. But what they never thought was, the principal actually agreed and even told them to watch the battle. Go. Han Bingning coldly threw down these two words, then took the lead and walked forward. Although there's nothing to see in the preliminaries, but it's good to come out and get some fresh air. He Xiaoqin was also quite happy. Over the past few days, the principal had personally supervised their cultivation, and almost everyone had complained incessantly. Sima Xiangshan glanced at them, then with Xin Yuan they disappeared into the crowd. Han Bingning was about to answer. Suddenly her heart felt something. She stopped and looked forward. Kai Shui and He Xiaoqin, who were beside her, noticed something strange, followed Han Bingning's gaze with a vigilant face. Their gaze was as sharp as a sword, as if it could pierce through the thin veil. Excuse me, are you Beast Academy's student Ming Guang? A beautiful girl, squeezed over, looked at Ming Guang with a face of worship. Sima Xiangshan's face was all smiles. His appearance was very ordinary. He even looked a bit gentle and easy to talk to. Goddess. In the dead silence, Tang Tian's shout spread throughout the audience. The cold and panicky atmosphere was suddenly swept away. Panic spread like a plague, climbing up the faces of these people, all the way to the depths of their eyes. At this time, Northern Yen Academy's Han Bingning and the other two came to their side. Not far away, two guys wearing masks were watching them. Senior sister. Chapter 32. Han Bingning squinted her eyes, and beside her, Kai Shui and He Xiaoqin's faces became much more serious. Chaotic splitting wind rod technique. Wang Zhen was also somewhat surprised. This type of rod technique is rarely practiced by people. Young man, you don't know what kind of baptism I have experienced. The best time to break the chaotic splitting wind rod technique is his first few strikes. At that time the power of the rod has not been fully displayed. Now that the power of the rod is layered, it is truly powerful and heavy. Wang Zhen said. The sound of the rod was deep and resounding, causing people's hearts to palpitate. The long copper rod had not yet touched the ground, but the energy had already split open the ground, causing countless amounts of dirt to fly. He is Tang Tian. Didn't they say Tang Tian is a trash student? Yes. The judge nodded. From the change in the sound of the rod, Tang Tian knew that the power of the rod had increased again. The barefooted youth's figure was completely enveloped by the rod's shadow. He actually dared to sneak attack. The smile on Tang Tian's face disappeared. He stared at the opponent with an unfriendly face, coldly snorted, "You are finished." He is Tang Tian. Tang Tian lowered his waist, opened his arms, his 10 fingers locked onto the barefooted youth. Kia Shangguan. Could it be? The barefooted youth's body, like a roly-poly doll, once again fell to the other side, bringing along the rod's power to the side. Although the barefooted youth felt a strong sense of oppression, his eyes did not have a hint of fear. An ominous glint flashed. His figure once again disappeared from Tang Tian's vision. Their senior actually knew this person. Kai Shui and He Shaoqin looked at each other. Their hearts were extremely curious, thinking that the principal had agreed to let them out. Could it be that the principal also knew? Looking at the super luxurious lineup on the viewing platform, 2 of the top 3 experts of Star Wind City had come. Although the Beast Academy's Liang Qiu did not come, but Senior Wang Zhen had personally come, it could be seen how important this was. I guess it's true, but pain in the balls? You've underestimated the big boss balls. Their entire bodies are made of copper and iron, and even their balls are made of steel. His upper body was naked and his lower body was only wearing a pair of simple animal skin shorts. His skin was dark and had a hint of metallic luster. His feet were bare and he held a copper rod in his hand. The 2 ends of the copper rod were wrapped with a circle of slightly protruding nails. The most impressive thing about him was his eyes. They knew very well what kind of attitude senior sister had towards men. Tang Tian stomped hard on the ground with his left foot. His calm face suddenly turned ferocious. He exerted force with his left foot and shot forward like an arrow. The strength of the barefooted youth was not bad. Just as the long copper rod missed, it was as if he had predicted Tang Tian's counterattack. His body fell straight to the side, avoiding Tang Tian's flash fist. At the same time he shook the tail of his rod and the body of the rod was like a venomous snake. It pounced towards Tang Tian. Beside him there was a freakish power maniac like Housefly Cow. Not to mention there was also Big Brother Stone, that super freakish road roller. Even if one randomly picked out from the quarry, the momentum of casually waving a big iron hammer would be much more terrifying than this. The barefooted youth's gaze turned to the other side of Tang Tian. The opposite barefooted youth also noticed the change in Tang Tian. His eyes flashed a trace of vigilance. The long copper rod in his hand suddenly straightened, and the rod head pointed directly at Tang Tian. As soon as his voice fell, the barefooted youth disappeared into the air, and a rod wind suddenly appeared behind Tang Tian's head. However, he was not affected by the opponent's rod. In an instant Tang Tian seemed to have changed into a different person. There was no trace of a smile on his face, and his eyes were calm without a trace of ripples. He opened his arms and every muscle was angular. The hard lines were full of masculinity. The long copper rod swept past his body. The heavy copper rod was swung up, and the sound of high-speed rotation filled the venue. The gravel and soil on the ground were constantly rolled up, and then crushed by the shadow of the rod. What kind of rod technique is this? Ming Guang couldn't help but ask. What a strange way of attacking. Han Bingning's eyes froze. She suddenly remembered the day when Tang Tian faced the ink-black iron rhinoceros. It was the same posture in front of her. The 2 of them retreated a few steps at the same time and once again separated. A swift and fierce figure stepped into the venue. His voice revealed a trace of killing intent. "Excuse me, is this venue 3897? I've long been prepared," Tang Tian casually said. Did Tang Tian not want to live anymore? Tang Tian jumped to the side again. The others also noticed the change in Tang Tian. The originally noisy audience immediately quietened down. Flash fist. Could it be that Star Wind City had another extraordinary genius? Senior sister, who is he? Kai Shui asked with a face of curiosity. The barefooted youth once again fell to the side, and the power of the long copper rod increased again. The rod's body became blurry and it was hard to see with the naked eye. The judge had seen all kinds of contestants. At first glance he could tell that the barefooted youth in front of him was definitely not a good person. What kind of rod technique was this? Fortunately at this time, another contestant entered the venue. Only then did the judge regain his senses. Tang Tian was shocked. He did not think that the opponent would start fighting just like that. But his reaction was extremely fast. Bending his waist, he lifted his left leg backwards. The judge hurriedly asked Tang Tian, "Are you ready?" The chaotic splitting wind rod technique requires innate divine strength. Relies on strength to win. Wang Zhen explained, using his body to drive the rod's power. Look at his figure, it looks like he's drunk. But in reality he's hiding his killing intent. Once the chaotic splitting wind rod technique is used, he'll have the advantage. He's Tang Tian. Han Bingning forced herself to calm down. She tried to calm down the intense feeling of embarrassment from Tang Tian's greeting. Yeah, he's been repeating for 5 years. If he's not a garbage student, then what is he? Tang Tian had already seen some signs. The barefooted youth used his body as the axis to move the rod. Every time he fell, the strength of the copper rod would increase a little. Right now, the barefooted youth was like a high-speed spinning top. The rod's power was heavy and terrifying. As long as it was hit, the opponent would most likely lose their fighting strength. From the looks of it, the barefooted youth's rod was very messy, but it covered a large area. Sima Xianxia, who was sitting slightly straight, had a flash in his eyes. He sat even straighter. Tang Tian's back leg was blocked by the barefooted youth's rod. Tang Tian had no choice but to jump to the other side. Kai Shui and He Shaoqin exclaimed at the same time. Their faces were filled with disbelief. The man below was actually Tang Tian? The legendary super retainer who was kicked out of school, the garbage student Tang Tian? The man that Jie Shengguan liked the most, Tang Tian? What a strange martial technique. Mingguang revealed a look of surprise. Looks like this person's strength is not bad. Sima Xiangshan sat up slightly, while Xin Yuan's face was full of surprise. When the referee entered the arena, he was completely shocked by such a hot scene. He almost wondered if he had gone to the wrong place. The familiar faces in the stands caused his heart to palpitate and his scalp to go numb. Any one of these people, any of their matches would become the hottest match of the day. Then isn't Tang Tian in danger? Mingguang frowned. Wang Zhen replied, his combat experience should be very rich. At this time, many people had already recognized that the person below was Tang Tian. Tang Tian's face was calm. Looking forward, his body slightly leaned forward and his right fist was at the side of his waist. Mingguang heard of this rod technique for the first time and was a little surprised. Why? Feels very powerful. I didn't expect there to be such a strong player in the preliminaries. When the referee saw the player in front of him, his heart trembled. Every step of Tang Tian was extremely heavy, deeply sinking into the soil. Tang Tian also did not expect that his first opponent would be so powerful. Han Bingning's mouth twitched. She resisted the urge to draw her sword and cut the two people beside her. She pretended to be indifferent, turned her face and looked at the two seriously. You guys are thinking too much. Actually, I like women. For a veteran referee who had been a referee for more than 5 years, how could he not know these people? The people in the stands were immediately shocked. Such a heavy rod to clash head-on was definitely looking for death. Almost at the same time, Tang Tian's squinted eyes suddenly opened. His upper body was like a pendulum, swaying slightly and his feet stepped backwards. However, the ferocious-looking Tang Tian's eyes were clear and calm. This kind of strength may be suffocating in the eyes of ordinary people, but in his eyes, it was not enough. God, this is the preliminaries. Boom. The barefooted youth's body was like a spinning top, straight in the other direction. The heavy copper rod was once again brought up. Tang Tian's eyes lit up and hurriedly waved his hand. Aha, young man, are you my opponent? Sima Xiangshan, Han Bingning, Wang Zhen. Tang Tian stepped horizontally as if he was sliding on ice, and brushed past the poisonous snake-like rod. Hoo. That copper rod was at least 60 pounds and when it danced it was terrifying. His eyes were focused and all distracting thoughts were thrown to the back of his mind. His opponent was like a whirlwind. Everywhere he went, sand and stones flew. Under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, Tang Tian was like a mad bison, rumbling as he brought along countless splashes of soil, rushing towards the whirlwind. Without warning, Tang Tian's fist drilled out from the barefooted youth's right rib. The barefooted youth's expression was indifferent, as if he didn't hear Tang Tian's words. Like a raging tornado, rumbling and wreaking havoc in the small venue. Although this group of people had lowered their voices, Sima Xiangshan and the others had terrifying hearing, so they heard everything clearly. But when they heard these words that were full of killing power, this group of powerful big shots subconsciously clamped their legs together. Moreover, he seemed to be very familiar with senior sister. Kai Shui hesitated but couldn't help but stutter. Senior sister, liking Jie Shengguan is nothing but liking her man, this seems. But why did so many big shots come here? Are they so bored that their balls hurt? He's Tang Tian. This point could be seen from Tang Tian's constant dodging. Tang Tian stopped moving and faced the other. He Shaoqin's temper was much more straightforward. She said with a serious face, Senior sister, there are plenty of fish in the sea, Why pick someone's broken shoes? Kai Shui and He Xiaoqin's expressions froze on their faces. They were stunned, so shocked that they couldn't speak. The brass-colored rod changed direction like the whirlwind, rumbling towards Tang Tian. This is... Kai Shui and He Xiaoqin looked at each other. They knew very well how much senior sister worshipped Jie Shangguan. The barefooted youth turned to ask the referee, "Can we start?" Han Bingning turned her face away as if she hadn't said anything. Swift and fierce, full of killing intent. Bang! Chapter 33. Suddenly Tang Tian's eyebrows twitched. All of a sudden he jumped out as if his butt was on fire, and waved his right hand with all his might. Wah wah wah. Big brother is the best. Little Nan Nan raised her tender little hands and shouted. Tang Tian's eyes lit up and continued, "I've learnt them all, 5 types of martial techniques. Wow, so powerful." The surroundings immediately quietened down. Everyone's gaze immediately became strange and looked at Tang Tian with sympathy. "Senior sister, what kind of girl do you like?" Kai Shui asked shyly and curiously. As he spoke, Sima Xiangshan's figure unknowingly floated to the exit. He suddenly turned his face and smiled at Tang Tian. "I'm really looking forward to it." The contrast was too big. In comparison, the big shots were much calmer. "The so-called enemy, isn't it to be defeated?" Tang Tian said matter-of-factly. You know that too?" Tang Tian looked as if he had discovered a new continent, and looked at Sima Xiangshan with excitement. Suddenly Tang Tian saw Xin Yuan on the viewing platform, and immediately became excited. He waved at Xin Yuan and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Brother Yuan Yuan! Brother Yuan Yuan!" That damned woman. A Maori's brute force was terrifying, and Ming Guang had personally experienced it. Ming Guang imagined it in his mind. Replacing Tang Tian with a Maori, this was a very normal result. Just that it was really rough. Really barbaric. With the last step, Tang Tian was like a barbaric rhinoceros, heavily stepping on it. Xin Yuan laughed very reluctantly and silently said in his heart, "Are you being sarcastic? Are you being sarcastic? Are you being sarcastic? Brother Yuan Yuan, your spirit card is really good. It's very useful." Tang Tian said sincerely. Kai Shui stared blankly at Tang Tian in the arena. So powerful. He waved his hand. "Godlike young man, we'll meet again." "Brother Yuan Yuan is too powerful. Even Brother Shi Tu praised you for matching well. Close combat expert." "Wow wow wow." Tang Tian said excitedly. Sima Xiangshan's expression became ferocious. He suddenly turned around and a piercingly cold killing intent swept towards Tang Tian. Sima Xiangshan. Han Bingning looked at Tang Tian worriedly. She knew that Sima Xiangshan had a very eccentric personality. It was very likely that he would do what he said. Tang Tian shook his head. "I don't know." Han Bingning was stunned, and so was everyone else. A deafening crash resounded as Tang Tian's fist collided with the copper rod. The shadows of the staff that filled the sky disappeared, and so did the heart-palpitating sound of the wind. The barefooted youth's high-speed spinning figure seemed to have been forcibly stopped by a force, and he stopped in place. Sima Xiangshan's tone was gentle, but his words sent chills down everyone's spine. "Bastard." Xin Yuan's face flushed red. He finally understood what Han Bingning felt. In that instant his heart was filled with regret. Why did he not take the opportunity to leave? "Who is he?" Tang Tian asked Han Bingning curiously. "Tang Tian's strength is very strong." He Xiaoqin analyzed seriously. "He does not look like the kind of physique that specializes in brute force, but to be able to explode with such a powerful force, it means that his technique is very strong. Up until now he has only used flash fist technique and aerial with stake, which are both rank 2 martial techniques. To be able to defeat his opponent with just a rank 2 martial technique, he is very powerful. He is a formidable opponent for us. Such a solid foundation, it is rare." Sima Xiangshan turned around and asked Xin Yuan. "I heard that he practiced fundamental martial techniques for 5 years. But to be able to fight to a draw with a Maori. He was a real freak." Han Bingning suddenly said, "Do you know who he is?" When Nan Nan helped Tang Tian apply the bamboo queen bee glue, Tang Tian's wrinkled face finally relaxed. He ran to the stands and waved his arms at Han Bingning and shouted, "Hey young lady, are you shocked by this godlike young man? So painful, so painful." Wang Zhen nodded his head at Tang Tian and left with a face full of admiration. Borrowing this force, Tang Tian's speed increased and he rushed to the front of the rod. Close quarters combat expert? When Sima Xianxia heard this term, he interjected with interest. Exhaling, he had long prepared his right fist and punched out. Quangdang. As the distance between the two got closer, Tang Tian's calm and clear eyes began to change. It was as if a flame had suddenly surged out from the depths of his eyes. Ooh. So painful. So painful. Just relying on strength to win against the chaotic splitting wind rod technique? This was too funny. The strong contrast between extreme movement and extreme stillness made the spectators feel uncomfortable. This time Mingguang calmed down and was on par with a Maori's fist. "I will cripple your true power and let you sink in defeat forever. It will definitely be wonderful and interesting." Snow Kai lowered her head as if she was thinking about something. The barefooted young man who was at a loss did not have any reaction at all. The fist landed solidly on his face. The barefooted young man was like a rhinoceros that had collided with him and flew out. Wang Zhen said, "His strength is slightly weaker than a Maori's, but his technique is more outstanding. I have seen the two of them fight and it was a draw." Suddenly, another fist drilled out from under his face without any warning. Seems like it was right. It was a perfect technique to release his strength. Just comparing muscle strength, he has almost reached the pinnacle. The flash fist is also beautiful. I guess Wang Zhen came for this. Sima Xianxia praised. With that, he disappeared. Xin Yuan nodded. Yes, that's what the rumors say. All the strength in his body was concentrated in this fist, and it was as heavy as 1,000 catties. Pa Han Bingning took half a step forward, his palm on the sword at his waist, his eyes drooping. Just like that, when Xin Yuan realized that Tang Tian had appeared in front of him, he had the heart to bang his head against the wall and die. Why was he still here? The clapping awoke the crowd from their thoughts. The one clapping was Sima Xianxia. He smiled and said, "This is the best sentence I have ever heard." Finished, he turned and left. Flash fist. After a while, the judge reacted and quickly shouted, "Tang Tian wins." Tang Tian said, "The guy who was beaten up by Chia so many times? For this sentence, even if we meet in the competition, I will not kill you." Bang. Once he displayed his rod techniques, he had never lost. There had never been anyone who could defeat him before he was exhausted. Xiaoqin noticed Kai Shui's strangeness and asked curiously, "Ah Shui, did you discover something new? The things that Tang Tian had displayed were too little and I could only analyze so much. However, to be able to attract so much attention, this Tang Tian really has some skills. This year's martial meet will be interesting." Han Bingning wanted to say something but nothing came out. She stared at Tang Tian. Tang Tian's eyes were clear and calm. There was no fear in his eyes. Ming Guang, Xin Yuan and the others, the ridicule on their faces slowly disappeared. They silently chewed on Tang Tian's words. Bamboo Queen be glue. Han Bingning staggered and almost fell. Xiaoqin also stared. Is he a wild beast? The stands were in an uproar. Xianxia was the eternal pain in Sima Xianxia's heart. When Xianxia was still in Star Wind City, he had always lived in Xianxia's shadow. He had repeatedly tried to challenge Xianxia, but every time he would be beaten miserably by Xianxia. Dang. Xin Yuan's smile was even more forced. He silently said in his heart, "Would I believe it? Would I believe it? Smoke bombs are too clumsy." Xin Yuan honestly said, "I'm not sure about that." Han Bingning was about to say something when she heard Tang Tian say, "But as long as they are my enemies, they will be defeated by me." The cold and demonic killing intent could not advance an inch. Han Bingning's heart relaxed. Thinking of Xin Yuan's embarrassment, she said without hesitation, "Let's go back to school." The change was too fast. Just now, they felt that the barefooted youth's rod technique was vigorous and without any flaws. Who knew that in the blink of an eye, Tang Tian would win? More importantly, Tang Tian did not seem to use any powerful martial techniques. He just relied on his strength to settle it. Really makes one look forward to it. Sima Xianxia smiled. Who knows, we might even exchange blows. Wang Zhen suddenly said, "Sima, if there's anything, Let's settle it at the martial meet. Han Bingning also pricked up her ears. She could see that Kai Shui was not right, but she had always been cold and would not take the initiative to speak. Your expression is so strange. What are you thinking about? Xiaoqin felt that it was very strange. All the killing intent suddenly disappeared without a trace. Sima Xiangshan laughed out loud. You really have guts. This year's martial meet finally has something that can pique my interest. The copper rod flew far away. Can I really say it? Kai Shui stammered. Sima Xiangshan looked coldly at Tang Tian. Tang Tian maintained his punching posture, his face cold. The entire audience was silent. Kai Shui and Xiaoqin hurriedly followed. Then you will definitely be defeated by me. Tang Tian's tone was incomparably firm. The barefooted youth's face revealed a blank expression. He did not understand what exactly had happened. Say it. What can't you say? Xiaoqin casually said, feeling even more strange. Sima Xiangshan, who was at the exit, staggered. Tang Tian maintained his punching posture and let out a long breath. The flames in his eyes slowly subsided. Han Bingning, Ming Guang's mouth was wide open. He blankly stared at the arena. After a while he blankly asked, This. Tang Tian carried little Nan Nan on his back and quickly jumped up to the viewing platform. Han Bingning was very calm. She had seen Tang Tian wrestle with the ink-black iron rhinoceros before. This kind of result did not surprise her. She just did not think that Tang Tian would use such a simple method to defeat his opponent. How could it be? How could it be? The viewing platform that had just been shaken into absolute silence. Now everyone looked sluggishly at Tang Tian, who was jumping around in the arena. His face was twisted in pain. The smile on Xin Yuan's face was stiff. In his heart he silently said, What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Please leave quickly. New discovery? Kai Shui raised her head with a blank face. Chapter 34. He is Star Wind City Academy's #1 expert. Amaury explained. Every student who trained in Flash Fist technique had a face of disbelief when they heard the result. But as the rumors spread, they began to believe that Flash Fist technique could actually break chaotic splitting wind rod technique. All the students who trained in Flash Fist technique were excited. They gathered together and tried to recreate Tang Tian's techniques. Tang Tian was able to use the rank 2 Flash Fist technique to break the rank 3 chaotic splitting wind rod technique. Was all because of his perfect fundamental martial techniques. And Sima Xiangshan had publicly announced in Crystal Sky Academy that Tang Tian's fundamental martial techniques had already reached a perfect state. No one in Star Wind City could compete with him in terms of muscle strength. Tang Tian continued to immerse himself in training. He was sweating profusely. He was not the least bit affected by the preliminary round, nor was he affected by the upcoming second round. His training was not affected at all. The Zhou family patriarch's eyes were filled with joy. He looked at Zhou Ping with a gratified expression. I want you to die fair and square in front of everyone. But no matter what the reason was, everyone's attention towards Tang Tian immediately soared. The preliminary round that was originally thought to be boring suddenly had a black horse appear and immediately ignited everyone's passion. Tang Tian's following matches were all dug out by people. Not far away, old Fart Wei, who had a leisurely face, suddenly froze. His muddy gaze suddenly became deep and countless scenes flashed past his eyes. His mind was suddenly in a trance. Countless killing and shouts seemed to ring in his ears. Even if I die, I must win. Everyone shook their heads. This type of training was not desirable. Everyone thought that there was some secret hidden within, but they realized there was no secret at all. This was what the teacher had told them on the first day of school. Tang Tian was also panting, his face was puzzled. Why not? Compared to the previous year's preliminary round, no one paid attention to it. This year, on the first day of the preliminary round, there was a sensational match. All the higher-ups of the Zhou family gathered together. Everyone's gaze landed on Zhou Peng, who was slowly walking in. Zhou Peng's steps were calm and his expression was calm. He enjoyed the gazes. Housefly cow, you will definitely win. Tang Tian shouted with a serious expression. Clenching his fists tightly, Tang Tian stared at Amauri's flushed face and squeezed out one sentence after another. Even if we die, we must win. This was a big secret. Amauri's face turned red from Tang Tian's words. 5 years of basic martial technique training, to be able to reach this stage, people suddenly realized, they did not know how to weigh whether this was worth it or not. Using 5 years of time to exchange for the rank 2 Flash Fist, to counter the rank 3 Chaotic Splitting Wind technique. What was the point? In 5 years' time, as long as one's talent was not too bad, they would be able to cultivate rank 3 martial techniques. Amauri's head buzzed. His eyes stared blankly as he murmured. Old Fart Wei suddenly laughed silently, his eyes filled with anticipation. Tang Tian once again entered everyone's line of sight. This was the first time Tang Tian was not the target of ridicule. The attention of many big shots was enough to explain everything. There were so many preliminary rounds, but only 2 of them attracted attention. One was Tang Tian and the other was Amauri. Liang Qiu's appearance on the stage for Amauri's match was seen as a senior's concern for his junior. As for Amauri, as the former 7th-ranked expert of Beast Academy, no one doubted his strength. In everyone's eyes, he was no different from a seeded player. The main character of this match was Star Wind City's famous super retainer, Tang Tian. What do you mean you don't know? Tang Tian widened his eyes and shouted, you will definitely win. You must win. There is nothing to be afraid of. Don't tell yourself that losing is nothing. Victory. As long as you win. The hardships you put in are never less than anyone else. There is no such thing as a matter-of-course victory. Saying that as long as you try your best you will not regret it is all a lie. Those who say this, they did not even use all their strength. So much sweat, so much hard work for what? Is it to retreat when fighting? To tell yourself that you have already tried your best and then accept defeat? Those are all excuses. Those are all bullshit. Only by winning can you tell the world that you have been here before. Amauri was silent for a moment and suddenly raised his head. My goal is to be able to meet Big Brother Liang Qiu and then defeat him. Your tone is really big to actually dare to speak like that to Sima Xiangshan. Amauri panted. Housefly cow. Tang Tian looked at Amauri seriously. This martial meet is a very good opportunity. Let it be the start of our Zhou family's rise again. The great clan elder was equally proud. Let whatever Sima Xiangshan become our Zhou family's stepping stone. That's right. Amauri nodded his head. Everyone once again suspected that Tang Tian did not use Flash Fist, but some other rank 3 martial technique similar to Flash Fist. But this deduction made the new students excited. They all raised their spirits and seriously trained in the fundamental martial techniques that they originally thought were useless. He could feel the envy, jealousy, shock and disbelief in everyone's eyes, and a smile quietly appeared on his face. Bang! Once this decision was announced, it was immediately welcomed by everyone. Tang Tian asked curiously, Housefly cow, what is your goal this time? The great clan elder coughed lightly, breaking the silence. His turbid gaze landed on Zhou Ping and he said in a deep voice, very good. This is how our Zhou family's young master should be. No matter what prejudice I had against you in the past, but now I acknowledge your identity as the successor of the Zhou family. Amauri. Everyone suddenly remembered that Tang Tian had trained in fundamental martial techniques for 5 years. Everyone could not help but be silent. When many people heard this news, they thought they had heard wrongly. But everyone who had personally witnessed the match would enthusiastically introduce the match to their friends around them. In the extremely luxurious viewing platform, every name would cause a wave of exclamations. He lowered his head to look at his palms. The palms that used to be white were now covered with calluses. He muttered to himself as though he was deeply moved and praised, truly a perfect work of art. 3 famous schools, not one was left out. There was one more person, Tang Tun. Young master, the great clan elder invites you in. The servant respectfully said. The teacups smashed heavily on the floor, smashing into pieces, and the shards flew everywhere. It's all because of that bastard Zhou Peng. And Tang Tian's use of Flash Fist, to break the opponent's chaotic splitting wind rod technique, set off a wave of discussion. There were not many people who trained in chaotic splitting wind rod technique, but the difficulty of this rod technique was well known. In comparison, the number of students who trained in Flash Fist was as many as the hairs on a cow. You have the talent that makes people envious. You have already been reborn. Although I know I will not be able to see that day, but I still hope that the Zhou family will flourish in your hands. What a wonderful feeling. It was only until the whispers of a few elders on the viewing platform gradually spread that everyone came to a realization. Zhou Peng was expressionless. The current him was a completely different person from before. His fair skin was tanned and his puffy eyes were now like a poisonous snake's triangular eyes, radiating light, cold and sharp. Even if I die, I must win. I don't know. Amaury was a little hesitant. Andrew Academy's principal's office. The principal's roar caused the students who passed by to be alarmed. Flash Fist was only a rank 2 martial technique, while Chaotic Splitting Wind Rod technique was a rank 3 rod technique. The difference in levels was like a huge chasm that could not be crossed. Only Old Fart Wei's face was carefree, as though the matter did not concern him. The students of the sword arts class collectively missed Tang Tian. Zhou Peng retracted his gaze and his lips curled into a playful smile. It was as though he was mocking and looking down on Zhou Peng. The smile disappeared in a flash. He gently adjusted his collar, took a step forward and walked to the competition grounds. I finally know the wonderful feeling of having power. It is more intoxicating than living a life of luxury. Fundamental martial techniques. The hall was silent, only the great clan elder's voice resounded. Maybe this guy would really become an amazing person in the future. After a short break, the two of them sat paralyzed on the floor, letting their sweat drip freely. Even if I die, I must win. Tang Tian. This asshole. Tang Tian suddenly tilted his head. That means if I defeat him, I will be the strongest person in Star Wind City Academy? Tang Tian suddenly understood. No wonder Xia always beat him up, so beating him up can get first place. Only Tang Tian, like a dark horse, suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Until now, people still did not understand why did he enter the sights of the elders. If only Senior Tang Tian was still here. But no matter how much they racked their brains, they could not do it. Just the people on the viewing platform could already organize an extremely entertaining and high-level competition. Tang Tian's second match would be held 2 days later. And regarding Tang Tian's bet, all the various banks had already opened, accepting bets. Seeing this, the martial meets organizers immediately changed Tang Tian's competition venue to a large one, to prevent a repeat of the previous time, where the viewing platform was filled, and the entrance was blocked so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Such treatment could only be seen in the main competition's popular matches. I want him to die without a burial ground. Zhou Peng smiled confidently, but the fists in his sleeves were quietly clenched. Amaury was also training with all his might. He did not expect that Big Brother Xianxia would actually personally watch his match. Big Brother Xianxia was his idol, and was also the person he was determined to defeat. Thinking of the familiar figure on the viewing platform, Amaury's entire body seemed to be filled with endless energy. Zhou Peng bowed slightly and said with a trace of arrogance, "That's right, the Zhou family will definitely flourish." Amaury raised his head in shame. It was as though they had lost their spiritual pillar and their hearts were empty. Dihan's eyes seemed to have a flash of light. Tang Tian's eyes constricted. He suddenly stomped on the ground and flew backwards. In this world there would always be extraordinary geniuses. Even in Star Wind City, where there were many famous schools, there would always be geniuses who had never gone to school before. Dihan was one of the most outstanding geniuses. Dihan was born in poverty and his temperament was eccentric and ruthless. He hated the life in the academy and his martial techniques were all self-taught. The competition began. He had always been alone and usually hunted monsters for a living. What made him even more fearful was that he was once an assassin. What he was most proficient in was ambushing in the rain. Until now he had never failed. Dihan in the rain was like an unstoppable killing god. His nickname Rain Man came from this. He felt that the opponent was shrouded in darkness and he could not see him clearly. "Don't worry. Our family's Bing Ning is not that kind of snobbish person. Even if Tang Tian does not get a good ranking, Bing Ning will not despise him. Father Han quickly comforted. He did not say a word. Like a wooden man, he stood in front of Tang Tian, waiting for the referee to enter the arena. Luan's eyes flashed a trace of reverence. Rain Man Di Han. Mengyu said in a deep voice. It really is him. I never thought that he would really come to participate in the martial meet and not just someone with the same name. Tang Tian, don't drop the ball. Mother Han clenched her fists. She was a little nervous. I heard that Tang Tian's opponent is very powerful. A ray of cold aura brushed past Tang Tian and swept past. Look at that. Luan looked as if he had discovered a new continent. He counted with his fingers. Night Forest Academy's #1 expert, Star Wind Academy's #4 Zhao Wei. Great Light Academy's boss, Star Wind Academy's #9 Shui Yong. God Might Academy's boss, Star Wind Academy's #7 Zhou Kai. What martial technique was that? He is not an ordinary person. He trained in fundamental martial techniques for 5 years. How can he be an ordinary person? Chapter 36. Who would have thought that Tang Tian had actually trained Flash Fist technique to a 100% perfect state? These water threads were as thin as hair, but they were as sharp and tough as the strings of a zither. If an enemy were to bump into them, they would be instantly dismembered. Di Han had used it before to ambush and kill many experts who were of a higher level than him. It was a pity that it was not a rainy day. Tang Tian's reaction was not slow either. The 12 fists formed a wall of fists like an iron wall. The water needles could not move it at all. The area covered by the wall of fists was huge, and Tang Tian seemed to never know fatigue. After 10 rounds, he did not show any signs of fatigue. Di Han was a tough nut to crack. It was still the flash fist technique. In the arena, Di Han looked at Tang Tian, who was at a loss, and sighed in his heart. He did not expect to meet such a strong opponent right from the start. Seemed like he had to think of another way. Tang Tian was a little fearful. The opponent's methods were endless and varied. It was unimaginable. It was the first time Tang Tian had met such an opponent. If it was a real ambush, Di Han could make use of the terrain, the environment, etc. to think of all sorts of methods. But to fight openly, to meet such a beast-level opponent, his luck was really bad. The spectators were surprised, but after thinking about it, Tang Tian's response was not considered clever, but it was rather practical. Many people would make such a choice. The higher the rank of a martial technique, there would be a qualitative difference in power. This point would be even more obvious as the rank of the martial technique increased. Tang Tian's initial reaction was not different from what Di Han had predicted. Shady. There must be shady. Wang Zhen's expression congealed. In the future, you must not be enemies with Di Han. This person is dangerous. But Tang Tian did not hesitate to stop, and gave up the opportunity to counterattack, which made Di Han surprised. In the blink of an eye, 5 water threads as thin as hair crisscrossed, forming a perfect killing net. Tang Tian was stunned. Up until now, the opponent obviously had the upper hand. He was in such a difficult situation. Why did he admit defeat? The quality of one's body would affect one's true power and martial techniques. That's right, I feel that Di Han is much stronger than Tang Tian. Why would he admit defeat? However, it was the word fast that made Di Han feel a strong pressure. 12 punches in 1 second. There was actually such a person in this world. His contraction just now was intentional. From this, it could be seen that his understanding of Qi was superior. He purposely pulled back to give Tang Tian a chance to attack. Di Han was well versed in the psychology of battle. Logically speaking, an average person who had been suppressed for so long would definitely not hesitate to pounce out once they had the chance to counterattack. Suppressed anger would often cause people to lower their vigilance towards danger. What the hell? Why did you admit defeat? This kind of influence was everywhere, but it wasn't that obvious. It wasn't that people didn't know about it, but compared to investing more time, most people would choose a more cost-effective and effective method. What a troublesome opponent. Tang Tian's expression changed. If he bumped into it, he would be finished. I don't understand. Is Tang Tian that powerful? Mingguang muttered. When Tang Tian used his flash fist to create a wall of fist shadows, Wang Zhen was not the only one who had a solemn expression. Famous experts, which one of them did not have sharp eyes? Although only fundamental martial techniques and rank 2 martial techniques emphasized on the technique of using the muscles. And although the higher the rank of martial techniques, the more emphasis was placed on the technique of using true power, but the body would always be the foundation of all martial techniques, and was the source of true power. Di Han controlled the 5 water needles, continuously flying and circling, like a group of eagles circling in the sky. As long as Tang Tian revealed a slight flaw, they would suddenly disappear in the sky. Even Meng Yu and the rest who witnessed this scene had a slight change in their expressions. Such a strange martial technique was simply impossible to defend against. Such a strong explosive force. Tang Tian, who had just leapt out, suddenly felt a strong sense of danger and his legs suddenly stopped. Di Han's heart jumped. How did he find out? Everyone was curious. Tang Tian's legs were strong and powerful, his close to perfect physique. At this moment, the strong explosive force made Tang Tian look like an alert cheetah, his speed astonishing. Di Han wants to win, but it is already impossible? Mingguang was stunned. Why didn't I see that? Di Han's methods are definitely not limited to this. But, such a solid foundation. No, it was a perfect foundation. How would Tang Tian deal with it? Wang Jin trained his flash fist to 87% and then stopped training. It was not that he could not improve, but every bit of improvement required too much time. Rather than using this time to train in the flash fist, the actual effect was far better to train in rank 3 martial techniques, and his strength would improve much faster. Dang 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 dang. Di Han squinted his eyes, his fingers lightly trembled, and the 5 water needles quietly returned to his side. No matter if it was Di Han or Tang Tian, they were both like mysteries. When these 2 enigmatic characters met, naturally it would attract people's attention. Perfect, flash fist. What would it be like? After a moment of silence, suddenly a wave of noise exploded. Such a strange martial technique. He started to be cautious. It was their first time seeing it. Tang Tian squinted his eyes and looked around. Brought them a huge shock. It turned out that a person with a solid foundation, just with the strength of his arms and muscles, could reach a terrifying frequency of 12 punches per second. If on top of this foundation adding true power, then how many punches could Tang Tian's fists release? Di Han had a headache. It was his first time meeting such a person. His strength was valiant, all aspects were balanced, there was no obvious weakness, his foundation was a complete mess. Forget about that, he actually had the intuition of a wild beast, it was too scary. Tang Tian retreated like lightning. Both fists were released at an astonishing frequency, continuously alternating. The air in front of him was filled with dense fist shadows like a wall. Dangerous. Mingguang disagreed. What danger? He doesn't even have the desire to win. Such a person, what's the use? Damn it. Without any hesitation, his right leg fiercely stomped on the ground, his body crouching low as he leapt out. Although the water lines were thin and transparent, it was hard to find them in the air. But when Tang Tian stopped and searched carefully, he quickly discovered their existence. He is an assassin. Wang Jin said indifferently. For an assassin to fight based on personal feelings, that is the most stupid thing to do. For Di Han to want to win, it is already impossible. Di Han also saw this point. I guess he did not want to expose all his methods. When things are not going well, he did not hesitate to retreat without any reluctance. This kind of assassin is extremely dangerous. But this time Tang Tian did not go berserk. It meant that Tang Tian had already trained the flash fist technique to the perfect realm. Wang Jin knew how difficult it was. When the flash fist technique was trained to 85% and above, every little bit of improvement, the amount of sweat and time needed, would multiply. Only Wang Jin was excited, his eyes shining brightly. 100% perfect flash fist technique. 100%. Mingguang was dumbstruck by the unforeseen event. He could not help but ask, is Di Han's brain fried? Why would he surrender? Once this thought came out, it was like a poisonous thorn that took root in their hearts, unable to be removed. The spectators were also stunned by the sudden change of events. Suddenly, Di Han raised his hand. I admit defeat. Fist shadow wall. Tang Tian's face was cautious. He slowly approached. He stared at his opponent. As long as he got closer, he would give his opponent a ruthless blow. Too scary. Di Han's battle experience was very rich. He had fought and killed many enemies, but he hated this kind of enemy the most. 5 sparks flew, the water needles hit the fist wall and were immediately repelled. The black metal gloves on Tang Tian's hands had an outstanding defense. The water needles hit the gloves, they did not even leave a mark. Tang Tian's fist, when it disappeared there was no sound, when it drilled out there was no sign, but once the fist drilled out, there was a low sound as if it would suddenly explode. Rain string. Such a treacherous fellow. Di Han's moves were not ordinary. Many people put themselves in Di Han's shoes, and very quickly came to a conclusion. If they were to encounter such a strange martial technique, it would be quite troublesome. No tricks, it meant absolute strength, it meant upright strength. This kind of strength may not be flexible, but it was obviously more frightening and difficult to deal with. Wang Zhen, in a split second, calculated the data of Tang Tian's punches. His face became serious, such a shocking frequency, he could not do it. This was also why this match would attract so many experts. Di Han had been famous for a long time, but he had always been alone, no one knew how strong he was. Sima Xianxia, Han Bingning and Wang Zhen, these three big shots, thought highly of Tang Tian, how strong he was. This battle was no doubt the best test. Wang Zhen's eyes widened, he could not take his eyes off. He was famous for his flash fist. He had a special feeling for flash fist. When he first saw Tang Tian's flash fist, although Tang Tian was in a berserk state, Wang Zhen was still very surprised. The opponent used a rank 2 flash fist to break his rain string. There was nothing ingenious about the technique, there was only one word: fast. Rain string's own power was negligible. Once the opponent's speed decreased, its power would be close to zero. The aura of a battle would always increase and decrease. Di Han's contraction almost immediately made Tang Tian feel an opportunity to attack. Di Han's expression for the first time changed. Without using true power, just relying on the muscles of his arms, to be able to reach such a shocking frequency, his foundation was too solid. Admit defeat. Di Han's eyes lit up, his 5 fingers trembled, the shapeless true power threads quietly glided in the air. When the 5 water needles disappeared in the air, the spectators cried out in surprise. The 5 water needles quietly melted, they followed the true power threads, quietly spreading. This is where Di Han is powerful. You did not see it, Tang Tian did not see it, but he was able to accurately predict his own situation. His decision was decisive, without a trace of sloppiness. Be it at the start or admit defeat now, he still holds the initiative. Wang Zhen's words were filled with admiration. If it was not a competition but a life-and-death battle, the result would be hard to say. Chapter 37. After 2 rounds of competition, the main competition would be held a week later. The two of them had a week of rest. What a distant and exciting name. The second-level meridian that had been completely connected impressively appeared in the shape of another crane. Boom boom boom. With every explosion, Tang Tian's body trembled. The old man walked down the stairs, his expression firm and calm. When it was over, the second-tier Dantian pool's capacity had increased by more than 5 times. Kakaka. The crystallization did not stop there. It continued to overflow and grow. But at this time, no matter how Tang Tian urged, more and more true power was flowing downwards. He muttered to himself, the second crane body, the second stage of the crane body energy. Someone actually managed to cultivate the second stage of the crane body energy. The wooden door opened by itself. Even Big Boss Wang Zhen could not stop praising the flash fist, but Tang Tian had suddenly become the #1 flash fist practitioner in Star Wind City. It looked like the crane that was drawn out by the true power was rather young, like a small crane, its wings not fully developed yet. Compared to the 3rd-tier Dantian pool, the 2nd-tier Dantian pool was much smaller. True inheritance. My crane sex true disciple. The crane's body strength transformation was invincible. Elder, he raised his palm and all the voices immediately disappeared. However, everyone's faces were flushed with excitement. Tang Tian had spent the most time on minute collapsing fist. He was already extremely close to successfully cultivating Great Avalanche. If the 3rd-level true power flowed into the 2nd-level Dantian pool, what would happen? The 2 white-robed disciples guarding the entrance of the valley were both stunned when they saw the old man. Could it be that some powerhouse wanted to invade Heavenly Crane Constellation? Tang Tian came back to his senses in a daze. When his mind returned to his meridians, he was immediately dumbfounded. Second stage crane body energy. Tang Tian suddenly reacted. Didn't this mean that his true power was much bigger than before? Was this also the crane body? 3 days ago, I suddenly sensed that someone had mastered the second stage of the crane body energy. This was a match that most people were baffled by. Impossible. After a while, the two disciples regained their senses and bowed in excitement. Elder He, why you're out of seclusion? The energy continued to flow into his body, and through the meridians, it was refined into true power. Threads of true power continued to flow into the newly expanded second-tier Dantian pool. Very quickly, the second-tier Dantian pool was filled with true power, and the following scene made Tang Tian dumbstruck. The energy behind the cross door was extremely dense. The crane-style Qi manual was an authentic ancient mental cultivation method. Its efficiency was much higher than the mental cultivation methods that were circulating in the market. Especially after Tang Tian cultivated the crane body, the efficiency of the crane-style Qi manual refining true power suddenly increased by multiple folds. After a while, the calm sea of clouds seemed to suddenly boil. White cranes soared into the sky, breaking through the clouds and flying in all directions. On the back of every white crane sat an anxious-looking white-robed crane sect disciple. There was no doubt about this, but the problem now was that no one could fully understand the extent of Tang Tian's strength. But it was only limited to that. In just a quarter of an hour, the second-tier meridians were all connected. Even the most remote corners of the meridians were all activated by true power. The two of them did not dare to ask any more questions and immediately responded, yes. The sun shone on his body and it was warm. The smell of the grass in the valley made him slightly dazed. His eyes became calm again. He took a step and followed the small path in the valley and walked towards the entrance of the valley. The crane elder who had been in closed-door cultivation for 10 years suddenly came out. The entire crane sect seemed to have found their backbone. But the moment the crane elder came out, he used the white crane token to gather them for a discussion. Something big must have happened. But now, there was someone who had mastered the second stage of the crane body energy. The second stage of the crane body energy was a higher level of the crane body energy, and required 2 crane bodies. But the legendary crane body was something they had not seen for a whole 900 years. At the top of the crane hall, the crane elder sat cross-legged. Below him, the elders were all nervous and excited. 8 steps overtaking cicada, broken shadow palm, consecutive joint technique, minute collapsing fist, and eagle claw technique were all trained to a certain level. All the elders' expressions froze on their faces in an instant. Up till now, Tang Tian had only used the 2 rank 2 martial techniques, the flash fist and the aerial stake steps. The things that he had displayed were rather limited. Everyone's understanding of him consisted of 2 aspects. One was that his foundation was very solid to the point of being abnormal. The other was his flash fist, the perfect flash fist. Tang Tian sat cross-legged and the surrounding energy continuously flowed into his body and transformed into true power. The current capacity of the 3rd level Dantian pool in his body was double of what it was when he first stepped into the 3rd level. Old Fart Wei's face was full of joy and was laughed at by the other 2. The 3rd level true power in these lower level meridians was invincible and did not meet with any obstacles. He took a step forward and slowly walked out of the wooden house. The 2 disciples were shocked. The white crane token was the most urgent order of the crane sect. Unless it was a matter of life and death, it could not be used. Until the judge announced his victory, he was still in a daze. When he regained his senses and wanted to ask Di Han why he admitted defeat, Di Han had already walked far away and only his back could be seen. Not knowing why, Tang Tian felt that there was something wrong with Di Han, and that something was not right. In the depths of the crane peak, in a simple and unadorned wooden house, an old man with white hair and beard sat cross-legged. He suddenly opened his eyes and in his muddy eyes, a dazzling light aura suddenly burst out. Heavenly Crane Constellation. In the meridians, the crane was vivid and lifelike. The entire process lasted for an entire hour. In the past, the 2nd level Dantian pool was only 1/10 of the 3rd level Dantian pool, but now it was half the size of the 3rd level Dantian pool. Tang Tian's mind was blank. The 3rd level Dantian pool could hold the 3rd level true power, and the 2nd level Dantian pool could hold the 2nd level true power. This was common knowledge. All the elders were excited and the crowd below exploded. This news was too shocking to them and it was beyond their imagination. Second stage of the crane body energy. Tang Tian felt that this victory came in a blur. But today he did not continue to train the great avalanche behind the cross-light door, but sat cross-legged and continuously activated the crane-style chi manual. Today he suddenly felt that the true power in his body was not right. Every generation of crane sect disciples would try to restore the crane body energy, but none succeeded. Finishing, they flew to the rooftop. On the rooftop there were a few exceptionally handsome white cranes. The two of them flipped onto the cranes and the clear cry of the cranes reverberated throughout the valley. The two cranes spread their wings and disappeared into the vast sea of clouds. Tang Tian was shocked. The circulation of true power had always been from the bottom to the top, commonly known as the stairway to heaven. Tang Tian had never heard of it before. True power could flow backwards from the top to the bottom? And Di Han's display of strength made everyone who did not understand him shocked. Correspondingly, Tang Tian's strength was quickly recognized by everyone, especially after the competition, the evaluation of the elders which spread from various channels. Gradually the second-tier Dantian pool became full again. Tang Tian was about to end this strange training, when the true power in the second-tier Dantian pool began to flow recklessly along the meridians. Not good. The true power finally calmed down. The increase of true power depended on grinding and it grew bit by bit. Tang Tian had never seen such a sudden increase before. He began to actively activate the crane-style chi manual, and a faint and clear cry of a crane sounded in his ears, and the true power started to move according to his will. The peaceful heavenly crane constellation was immediately filled with a tense atmosphere. In comparison, Di Han's strength, calmness, decisiveness made many people start to reevaluate this eccentric genius. The strange silence lasted for about 10 seconds before the crowd exploded. Tang Tian was very strong. 3 days later, after 2 rounds of preliminaries, the two of them entered the main competition. Looking at the excitement of the younger generation, Elder Crane sighed in his heart. The Crane sect had been passed down for so long, but they had lost their true inheritance, and the Crane sect had been declining because of this. And the most crucial crane body energy was the core of the Crane sect, and it had been missing for a whole 900 years. The third level of true power started to freeze, and along the walls of the pool, it quickly crystallized and grew. In the blink of an eye, the second-tier Dantian pool's walls had doubled. Compared to Tang Tian's inexplicable victory, Maori's victory was indisputable. His strength surpassed his opponent by too much, and he only used 3 blades to defeat his opponent. In the previous round the opponent was too weak and Tang Tian easily won. In this round, Di Han had the strength to force Tang Tian to display more of his strength, but for some reason, Di Han suddenly admitted defeat. Tang Tian looked like he was convulsing and his body was shaking like a sieve. In the Grand Crane Palace, disciples and elders were gathered, and everyone had a solemn expression. The huge Crane Palace was silent and the atmosphere was tense. But the most important thing was, Tang Tian won. Elder Crane opened his eyes, and his gaze swept across the elders of the Crane sect and said slowly. The true power flowed along the crane-shaped meridians, and continuously seeped into the remote meridians. Tang Tian had trained in the crane-style chi manual for a period of time, and with his relentless training and the dense energy behind the cross door, the third-tier Dantian pool's meridians were connected to almost every corner with true power. Tang Tian's brain was exploding and he was unable to respond. The third-level true power entered the second-tier meridians, like a drop of water falling into boiling oil, and suddenly a series of explosions like a hot knife cutting through butter. But all of this came from his intuition, and with his brain, it was impossible to understand such a complicated matter. Following the continuous strengthening of Tang Tian's crane body, the crane-style chi manual became stronger, and his meditation time was shortened to half an hour, and he could recover his strength. This caused his training speed to increase greatly. The true power continued to circulate and layers of true power surged, as if the little crane was flapping its wings, and an indescribable numb feeling flowed through the meridians. Bang! Tang Tian felt as if something had suddenly cleared up, and the true power in the third-tier Dantian pool was overflowing, and actually flowed towards the second-tier Dantian pool. Past the White Crane Order, all elders and above, to the Crane Palace for a discussion. The elder said indifferently. With that thought, Tang Tian was ecstatic. He stood up suddenly and his clothes fluttered without any wind, and his aura was astonishing. Chapter 38. The important task of reviving the Crane sect has been handed to you, so this thing is also the time to hand it over to you. No one was able to associate this simple and unadorned sword with a gold star treasure. My senses are very vague and I am unable to pinpoint the area. In the vast sea of people, the chances are slim. Maybe in 10 years, maybe in my entire life, I will not get anything. Leaving the quiet and peaceful heavenly Crane constellation, entering the dangerous heavens road, I can lose my life at any time. This task is dangerous, arduous, uncertain and unknown. Who is willing to go? Elder Crane's face surfaced a look of pride. His tone was as firm as steel. A ray of flowing light, it entered Crane's palm. Yes. Crane bowed slightly. I know it is not easy for everyone. Our Crane sect has been passed down to this day. Honestly speaking, not to mention the glory when it was first established, even continuing on is not easy. Everyone is under a lot of pressure. If not for our internal unity, heavenly Crane constellation would have long changed hands. We have a long history with a glorious past, but now that we are in such a decline, talking about the past will only invite ridicule. If this goes on, no one knows how long the Crane sect can last. In the silent Crane Hall, the great clan elder sighed, directly striking at everyone's heart. The highest grade saint treasures could be counted with one's fingers. Leo constellation's raging Lionheart sword, Sagittarius constellation's heavenly bow, were all saint treasures. Only the biggest constellations could produce saint treasures. As though sensing Crane's thoughts, suddenly the Crane word on the sword sheath lit up with a dazzling light aura. The word flowed like molten iron, and under Crane's shocked gaze, it slowly floated up from the sword sheath. Elder Crane could not help but reveal a smile. Crane was perfect in all aspects. The only thing that made Elder Crane uncomfortable was that he was too mature. Crane's maturity far exceeded his age, as though no matter what happened, nothing could surprise him. His white robes were as white as snow without a speck of dust, his silver hair cascading down his shoulders. Crane immediately opened up his palm, revealing a crane-shaped imprint on his palm. Upon thinking about searching for an unknown target and obtaining the inheritance from the other party, such a matter sounded like a joke, an impossible joke. But I can see the light of our Crane sect's revival. Elder Crane's turbid eyes shone with an indescribable light aura. If others knew that the heavenly Crane constellation had a gold treasure. When you were born, your father named you Crane, hoping that you could revitalize the Crane sect. I never thought that the heavy responsibility of the Crane sect would fall on your shoulders today. Old Crane sighed. Furthermore, Father, Crane bowed slightly and calmly replied, Mother has already agreed. A hint of gratification flashed through old Crane's eyes. Crane's heart shivered. Suddenly, a calm and steady voice resounded in the hall. Without thinking, Crane knew that to the Crane sect, it would be a calamity. Crane was slightly embarrassed but quickly regained his composure. A tall man stepped out of the ranks. His body was as straight as a spear, and he was exceptionally eye-catching in the main hall. His face was as gentle as jade and his expression was calm. His bright black eyes were as deep as the night sky. He opened the wooden box and a plain ancient sword appeared in front of him. My name is Crane. This sword is also called Crane. Are we destined to meet? Crane looked at Elder Crane in a daze. He never thought that his sect would have such a secret. From today onwards, it and the future of the Crane sect will be in your hands, Crane. Everyone looked at each other. They initially thought that Elder Crane's senses would at least have a rough range, but who knew that he did not even have a range? Many people think that the heavenly Crane constellation's peak star treasure is the silver-ranked heavenly Crane armor. Old Crane's gaze became deep. Crane was stunned when he heard that. This was the first time his expression changed since he entered the house. Good. Elder Crane nodded. Looking at the similar face of the Crane in front of him, another figure appeared in his mind. When I look at you, I think of your father. I watched him grow up. You are even more outstanding than your father. Your father's spirit in heaven will definitely be gratified. There was not a single pattern on the sword's body, and it was dim. On the scabbard there was only an ancient seal, Crane. No one spoke. Is there anyone else who is willing? Elder Crane looked around. Disappointment flashed in Elder Crane's eyes. Crane opened the wooden box in a daze. Many of Elder Crane's words had impacted him greatly. The shocking secret of the Crane sect stunned him. He did not expect that the Crane sect that he grew up in would have such a huge secret. A gold-ranked star treasure. Crane's face was calm. Mother loved father deeply. She is very happy that I can inherit father's dying wish. Was he going to search the entire world for it? Crane's mountain-like body trembled, and his face was filled with disbelief. Even Crane is shocked. That's rare. Elder Crane laughed. Crane bowed slightly. Don't worry. Elder Crane's face was solemn. He stood up and walked to a corner. He picked up a dusty wooden box and returned to his seat. If this news were to spread, it would immediately cause a bloodbath. The experts would not even bother to touch the silver-ranked, heavenly Crane armor. But the gold-ranked star treasure was something that even the legendary figures would not be able to maintain their composure. Iron, bronze, silver, gold, saint treasures. Elder Crane gently placed the wooden box in front of Crane. The reason why the Crane sect was able to maintain the rule of the heavenly Crane constellation was because the big powerhouses looked down on the heavenly Crane constellation. They thought that the heavenly Crane constellation was just a barren place. If they only knew that the heavenly Crane constellation had a gold-ranked treasure, then many people's eyes were filled with fear. The heavenly Crane constellation was peaceful and quiet. There were no disputes. It was like a paradise. Although there was no wealth, there was no danger. Although everyone longed for the glory of the past, they were already used to the comfort of the present. Every constellation did not only have one star treasure. All these star treasures were nurtured by the constellation for billions of years. Star treasures that were born from the same constellation would be seen as a series. These star treasures would usually have some common characteristics. But different star treasures would have a huge difference in power. Thus, people classified these star treasures into different grades. The great clan elder's expression was solemn. His gaze suddenly became sharp. He slowly swept his gaze across everyone and said. Elder Crane's low and hoarse voice resonated in the hall. Elder Crane's turbid eyes did not show any joy or anger. He nodded his head. Then let's do it. Crane's slender fingers caressed the Crane word on the sword sheath. Tang Tian's Aquarius martial cabinet was only a black iron treasure, a beginner-grade treasure. This sword was the first star treasure that Crane's spiritual master subdued when he entered the heavenly Crane constellation. It was also Crane's spiritual master's sword. Crane's spiritual master's strength was extraordinary. This sword had only been unsheathed 3 times in his life. Almost no one knew about it. Even the disciples around him knew about it. Crane's spiritual master seemed to have foreseen the decline of the Crane sect. To prevent people from coveting it, this sword had never appeared after Crane's spiritual master passed away. Every generation there would be a disciple who would be chosen to be the guardian of the sword. I am this generation's guardian disciple. The Crane body was the most important part of the true inheritance that our Crane sect had lost. But now it has appeared again. To us, this is an opportunity. This might be our last chance. If we are unable to let the true inheritance return to the Crane sect, our Crane sect will be annihilated in another 10 years. So, I need someone to bring back the Crane sect's true inheritance that has been lost for 900 years. In the dark room, the oil lamp that was as big as a bean would occasionally crackle. Actually, in my heart you are the best choice. But I did not expect, sigh. Elder Crane sighed. His gaze once again focused on the young man. You are the most outstanding disciple in the 3rd generation. With your talent, staying in the Crane sect, honestly speaking, would be a waste. If you had, your achievements today would not stop there. The Crane sect has dragged you down. Your mother is very disappointed in the Crane sect. Actually, I am very disappointed too. You are overpraising me. Crane's expression did not change. He sat upright as usual. In other words, the highest grade of star treasures signified the potential value of the constellation. Disciple Crane is willing to go. Gold-ranked treasures were powerful treasures that were second only to saint treasures. Every single one of them was a powerful existence that martial artists yearned for. Every single gold rank treasure could not be circulated in the market. Only the top-grade constellations could produce gold rank treasures. This sword, I was originally prepared to give it to your father. He was the most passionate and hopeful young man I have ever met. I always thought that the future of the Crane sect was in his hands. I did not expect that fate would make a fool out of you. After he passed away, you inherited his wishes. Maybe this is fate. Elder Crane looked at the young man sitting upright. Crane's expression was so calm that it did not match his age. Elder Crane sighed and broke the silence. Is there no problem with your mother? Elder Crane stopped laughing. His expression became solemn again. The silver rank heavenly crane clothing has always been seen as the inheritance of the Crane sect. It is the highest grade treasure of the heavenly crane constellation. The heavenly crane constellation is seen as a small constellation. This is also an important reason. But very few people know that the strongest star treasure of the heavenly crane constellation is not the silver rank, heavenly crane clothing, but the gold rank, crane sword. Yes, it was not easy for them in the past. Your mother is worthy of respect. Elder Crane thought about the past. He quickly regained his senses and laughed at himself. When one is old, it is easy to recall the past. Your strength, compared to all the elders, is more outstanding. I'm not worried. But you are still young and do not have the experience to travel far. That is my only worry. I have roamed outside in the past. The dangers of Heaven's Road are everywhere. You must remember, sometimes wisdom is more useful than fists. No one spoke. All of the elders lowered their heads. Some of them shrunk back into the crowd, afraid of being called out by Elder Crane. Elder Crane's gaze was fixated on Crane's young face. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.